Chapter 605, however, you're still a little less than Miesenvel. CM 1, Divine Realm, a small town outside the 100,000 mountains. Xiao Changtian and Ling Xiaoxiao were walking in the town. Xiao Changtian sighed when he saw how lively the town was. When he first came here a while ago, this town was also holding some kind of blessing meeting. From the looks of it, this poetry competition should be about the same. If there was anything different, it would be that there were more people participating this time. Soon, Xiao Changtian and the others arrived at the stream. Senior, are you interested in participating? Leng Mei asked Xiao Changtian as she looked around with her big eyes. Let's just take a look. Xiao Changtian responded to Leng Mei's words. He saw the colorful lanterns on both sides of the stream and the words on the banners. In the cultivation world, martial arts were valued over literature. The cultural level of these poems was enough for him to crush them by reciting 300 Tang poems when he was young. He was just here to take a look. If he really went up to compete with them, wouldn't it be a blow to his reputation? At this moment, a pleasant voice slowly sounded in Xiao Changshan's ears. Seeing how refined Mr. is Mr. also here to participate in the poetry competition? Hearing this voice, Xiao Changtian also looked to his side. He saw a woman in red with an enchanting figure looking at him with a smile. Suddenly being hit on by a beautiful woman, Xiao Changtian smiled politely at her. I just came to take a look. Before coming, the red-clothed woman had already dressed up meticulously. She had specially dressed herself up to be more seductive and sexy. He thought that he could attract Xiao Changshan's attention. After all, he had already investigated. This senior was pretending to be a young man. Wasn't he just at the age where he was full of vigor? Why didn't he react at all? He only said one sentence and then stopped. Seeing that Xiao Changtian didn't continue to speak, the woman in red continued, I have just arrived here and have been very interested in these poems since I was young. I'm new here. I wonder if I can travel with you. Xiao Changtian hesitated for a moment when he heard the woman in red's words. He then slowly said to her, okay, all right. Looking at the lady in red, Xiao Changtian recalled the time when he first came here. It was also thanks to the flower fairy's help that they were able to find the 100,000 mountains. Now that this woman had just arrived, he would help her if he could. Then, Xiao Changtian said to Leng Xiaoxiao and Leng Lingyu, Miss Leng, you won't mind, right? After Xiao Changtian spoke to Leng Xiaoxiao and the others, the red-robed woman realized that Leng Xiaoxiao and the others were with Xiao Changtian. Leng Xiaoxiao of the spiritual race, Leng Mei. When the red-robed woman saw Leng Xiaoxiao and the other two, she also muttered in her heart. No wonder Senior didn't care so much about his appearance. Leng Xiaoxiao and the others were indeed comparable to him. However, that was all. When Leng Xiaoxiao and the others heard this, they also said to Xiao Changtian, he said, we listened to the senior's call. Leng Xiaoxiao had noticed the woman in red the moment she appeared. The woman in red gave her a feeling of extreme danger. At least in terms of cultivation, he was definitely stronger than him. Leng Xiaoxiao didn't understand why such a beautiful expert would approach them. However, with Senior by his side, there should be nothing to worry about. Leng Mei looked at the red-robed woman and spoke with a hint of jealousy. All right then. Then let's go over there and take a look. At this moment, there were many people, and some of them could not see clearly. Xiao Changtian also pointed to a higher viewing platform. He said to the three women beside him. Hearing Xiao Changshan's words, Leng Xiaoxiao and the woman in red nodded immediately. Then, he followed behind Xiao Changtian. When the lady in red walked to Leng Mei's side, she also said to her slowly, don't think I don't know what you're thinking. But there are some things that you can't touch. In terms of looks and figure, you're not bad, but you're still a little lacking compared to me. Leng Mei also reacted after receiving the red-clothed lattice voice transmission. It turned out that this person was here to compete with him for a senior. Immediately, he became angry and transmitted a message to the red-clothed woman. Who are you? You must have ill intentions for suddenly approaching Senior. Do you think Senior will take a fancy to you? Although Leng Mei admitted that this red-clothed woman's figure was indeed not bad. However, who was Senior? His strength was so profound. What kind of woman had he not seen before? How could he take a fancy to her? When the red-clothed woman received Leng Mei's voice transmission, she also responded fiercely to her. You are not qualified to know who I am. The more you know, the more trouble you will bring upon yourself. Leng Xiaoxiao was beside them. She didn't know what had happened between them. However, when he saw the way they looked at each other, he knew that nothing good was going to happen. He then said to the two of them, "All right, if you don't leave now, you won't be able to keep up with Senior." Hearing Leng Xiaoxiao's words, the red-robed woman and Leng Mei saw Xiao Changtian, who had already walked a distance away. They immediately chased after each other. Leng Xiaoxiao felt a headache coming on. Soon, Xiao Changtian, Leng Xiaoxiao and the others also arrived on the platform. Then, Xiao Changtian and the others saw a flower boat slowly swimming past the stream. Seeing this flower boat, Xiao Changtian also muttered in his heart. Wasn't this the flower fairy's boat from last time? Could it be that this poetry competition was organized by the flower fairy? Last time, he was inexplicably chosen. Could it be that this time? As Xiao Changtian thought about this, a wreath fell on his body. Then, a clear female voice came from the boat. Those who have received the wreath, please come to the ship and write a poem. Those who can obtain the approval of the fairy will receive blessings. Xiao Changtian looked at the wreath in his hand and was dumbfounded. No way, what a coincidence. However, he knew the flower fairy, and it seemed like he hadn't seen her for a long time. Since he had been chosen, he would go and meet him. Then, Xiao Changtian walked towards the boat. Someone in the crowd seemed to have recognized him. Wow, why is it him again? I remember that he was chosen by the fairy last time. Could this person be the legendary European king? Other than being a little handsome, how can I not compare to him? As expected, handsome people are also very lucky. Xiao Changtian also came to the boat amidst the envious voices. In the cabin, the flower fairy's eyes flashed with purple light. Chapter 606, You're a Heartless Man, 1, Zhenvel. CM Divine Realm, a small town outside the 100,000 mountains. Xiao Changtian, escorted by a few maids, slowly came to the boat. Young master, please. A maid pointed at the cabin and said to Xiao Changtian. Xiao Changtian nodded at the maid. Then, he walked into the cabin. Just like the last time he saw the flower fairy, Xiao Changtian also saw the flower fairy sitting in the cabin, playing the zither. Seeing the flower fairy, Xiao Changtian said to her slowly, "Flower fairy, long time no see." The flower fairy also replied. That's right, I didn't expect to see young master here again. While speaking, the fairy slowly walked to Xiao Changtian. Xiao Changtian, do you know what you told me after we left the 100,000 mountains? We can meet soon, but if I didn't hold this poetry competition today, would you have abandoned me? At this moment, the flower fairy was also glaring at Xiao Changtian like a shrew. Flower fairy, I've indeed been too busy recently. If I cause you any trouble, I don't need you to be so hypocritical. Before Xiao Changtian could finish his words, the flower fairy in front of him waved her sleeves and said fiercely to him. Who do you think you are? Aren't you just good at playing the piano and raising a few divine beasts? I'm telling you, in my eyes, these are nothing, you're a heartless man. Xiao Changtian forced a smile on his face. Flower fairy, are you misunderstanding something? He could understand why this flower girl said she knew how to play the piano. However, how could he not know how many divine beasts he had raised? Wasn't this nonsense? If I had raised a few divine beasts, I wouldn't have come to such a remote village like the 100,000 mountains. Also, how did I become a heartless man? I don't seem to have any feelings for you, right? Xiao Changtian seriously suspected that the flower fairy had been provoked by something. The flower fairy heard Xiao Changshan's words and also laughed out loud. Misunderstanding? What misunderstanding? Let me tell you, a heartless man like you will never have a woman who will fall for you. Hearing the flower fairy's words, Xiao Changtian was furious. Just as he was about to do something, he saw a figure pass by him. Pa! Then, a crisp sound slowly sounded in the cabin. I don't think anyone would like a shrew like you. At this time, Leng Mei had unknowingly arrived in front of Xiao Changtian. He pointed at the flower fairy in front of him and said slowly. Leng Mei's slap also directly sent the veil on the flower fairy's face flying. The flower fairy covered her burning face and looked at Leng Mei in front of her. She said to her coldly, Who are you? Who let you up here? Men, chase her out. Where did you all go? After Leng Mei heard the flower fairy's words, she also responded slowly. There's no need to shout. Those people have already been dealt with. Let me tell you, there are many women who fancy Senior. Don't think that you can do whatever you want just because you have a little bit of charm. In terms of beauty, you're far inferior to me. At this moment, Leng Mei also learned what the red-clothed woman had said to her previously. At this moment, Leng Mei turned to Xiao Changtian and said slowly, Senior, you won't mind me doing this, right? Seeing Leng Mei sticking out her tongue at him, Xiao Changtian waved his hand at her. Thank you so much. Xiao Changtian had mixed feelings. The flower fairy was originally a good girl. How did it suddenly become like this? Could this be the legendary love turning into hate? But that was not right. He was just a mortal. Why would the other party take a fancy to him? When the flower fairy heard Leng Mei's words, she looked at her and said slowly, Leng Mei, when I was in the 100,000 mountains, I was already unhappy with you. Don't you have your own good looks that are better than mine? When Leng Mei heard the flower fairy's words, he immediately reacted in his heart. Looking at Xiao Changtian beside her, her pretty face blushed. The flower fairy's voice continued to slowly travel over. See, you're hesitating yourself. You've taken a fancy to too many of Senior's women. What a joke. Xiao Changtian, if you have the ability, don't stand behind a woman. Then, the flower fairy turned her head and provoked Xiao Changtian. When Leng Mei heard the flower fairy's words, she also stomped her foot. No, hey, Miss Leng, I know. You don't have to say it. Before Leng Mei could finish her words, Xiao Changtian spoke to her slowly. Then, he walked to the flower fairy's words and slowly said to her, Flower fairy, I think there's nothing more to say between us. As soon as he finished speaking, Xiao Changtian also wanted to bring Leng Mei out. He had thought that he would be quite happy with this poem competition today. He did not expect to encounter such a thing. He did not know what this flower girl had experienced. It was better for him to let her calm down. Leng Mei looked at Xiao Changtian beside him and felt a little nervous. It turned out that Senior had always known about his love for him. The Senior didn't reject him just now. Did that mean that he still had a chance? Thinking of this, Leng Mei felt a burst of sweetness in her heart. At this moment, the flower fairy saw Xiao Changtian wanting to leave with Leng Mei. He also shouted at them, Stop, where are you going? You injured my people and you want to leave? As she spoke, the flower fairy also came in front of Xiao Changtian and Leng Mei, blocking their way. When Leng Mei heard the flower fairy's words, he also said to Xiao Changtian, Senior, I didn't injure them. Xiao Changtian looked at the flower fairy in front of him and frowned. Was this flower girl going to fight to the death? Then, Xiao Changtian also planned to bring Leng Mei to the other side. Seeing Xiao Changtian ignore her, the flower fairy also took out a white veil. Then, he waved the white muslin in his hand and was about to attack Xiao Changtian. At the same time, a voice slowly sounded in the cabin. Woman, sir has already given you a lot of face. Don't push your luck. As soon as she finished speaking, the woman in red slowly appeared between Xiao Changtian and the flower fairy. He held the gauze that the flower fairy wanted to use to attack Xiao Changtian, and he looked at her angrily. After all, Xiao Changtian was the man she wanted to fall in love with. How could the woman in red tolerate others humiliating Xiao Changtian? Furthermore, this woman's cultivation was so low that she was not worthy of Xiao Changtian. Chapter 607, Teach the Flower Fairy a Lesson, 1, Znvel. CM in the cabin of a flower boat in a small town outside the 100,000 mountains. The flower fairy saw the woman in red who had suddenly appeared in front of her. After tugging at the white veil in his hand a few times and realizing that it did not budge, he said fiercely to the red-clothed woman, "And who are you? You are still not qualified to know who I am." The red-robed woman replied rudely. Then, she pulled the white veil in her hand. The flower fairy staggered and almost fell to the ground. At this moment, Xiao Changtian also came to the side of the woman in red. "Thank you for your help." At the same time, Xiao Changtian looked at the flower fairy who almost fell to the ground and said to her, "Miss Hua, I really didn't expect you to become like this." The flower fairy heard Xiao Changshan's words and ignored him. He still had a smile on his face as he walked behind him. He pulled out a long sword from under his table. As soon as the long sword was drawn, a bone-piercing chill rippled in the cabin. This sword was not simple. When the woman in red saw the sword, she felt a sense of familiarity for some reason. He should have seen this sword somewhere before. However, he couldn't recall it for a while. Xiao Changtian saw the flower fairy suddenly pull out a long sword and said to her, "Miss Hua, what are you doing?" At the same time, Xiao Changtian said to Leng Mei and the woman in red beside him, "Miss Leng, Miss Hong Yi, you can leave first. I'll take care of this place." Xiao Changtian was certain that the flower fairy was suffering from a serious illness. He actually pulled out a long sword to deal with them. This made it seem as if there was a great hatred between them. Moreover, there were only him and two women in this cabin. He was still all right. After receiving the system's training, he could still deal with it. However, it was unknown if Miss Leng and the lady in red had learned any self-defense skills. If he was cut down by the flower fairy, something might happen. When the flower fairy heard Xiao Changshan's words, her lips curled into a smile. "Xiao Changtian, are you scared?" "Why?" "It's not that easy to leave. I'm going to make you stay here today to atone for your sins." Then, the flower fairy raised her sword and attacked Xiao Changtian and the others. Seeing the flower fairy, Xiao Changtian also planned to go over and deal with her. However, before he could move, the woman in red charged at the flower fairy. "Sir, be careful. Leave this to me." The woman in red grabbed the flower fairy's arm and said to Xiao Changtian. Xiao Changtian was also stunned when he saw the woman in red suddenly rushing in front of him. So the lady in red was a tough woman. "Lady in red, I think it's still too dangerous. Let me do it." Although the woman in red took the initiative to attack, Xiao Changtian was still worried. How did she become a freeloader here today? The red-robed woman slowly responded to Xiao Changshan's words. "Sir, there's no need. Let me do it." Xiao Changtian shrugged his shoulders when he heard the woman in red. "All right, why not?" Then, the woman in red and the flower fairy looked at each other and said slowly, "You want to fight with teacher? Let me tell you, you're not worthy." Hong Yi's words seemed to have angered the flower fairy. When the flower fairy heard her words, she also attacked her. "I want you dead." The woman in red saw the flower fairy brandishing her sword at her. Seizing her weakness, he raised one leg and kicked at the flower fairy's hand. With a swoosh, the long sword left the flower fairy's hand. Then, the woman in red punched the flower fairy's face. Bang! The flower fairy was hit by the woman in red and flew backward. "Sir, let's go." The woman in red came to Xiao Changtian and said slowly. Xiao Changtian nodded at the woman in red. He really didn't expect this red-dressed girl to be so fierce. Then, Xiao Changtian, the woman in red, and Leng Mei also left the boat. Walking out of the flower boat, the surrounding cultivators saw the red-robed woman and Leng Mei beside Xiao Changtian. Wow, how did this person go in and come out with two beauties? Could it be that fairy's blessing is to send a beautiful woman? Fairy, I also want to accept your blessing. The cultivator shouted at the boat while the cultivator beside him slowly said to him, why don't you take a look at yourself and then look at him? Do you think he's qualified to be chosen? Although that young man is a little handsome, I'm still a cultivator. Look at him. He doesn't have any aura at all. At this moment, the cultivator's envious voice slowly sounded. Soon, Xiao Changtian and Leng Mei left the town. This poetry contest was too bad for them. Not long after Xiao Changtian and the others left, a few figures slowly appeared on the flower boat. It was Su Tian and the palace lord of the Flower Fairy Palace. Su Tian slowly walked into the cabin. Using his unique method, he also sensed the Flower Fairy's location. Su Tian smiled when he saw the Flower Fairy lying on the ground. According to his plan, he wanted the Flower Fairy to humiliate Xiao Changtian. It would be best to anger her and then let Hong Yi resolve it. He left a good impression on Xiao Changtian, and he was stimulated again. Su Tian felt that Hong Yi's chances of taking down Xiao Changtian should be 80 to 90%. Miss, well, wait for your good news now. Su Tian muttered. At this moment, the palace lord of the Flower Fairy Palace also came to Su Tian's side and slowly said to him, Sir, where is the Flower Fairy? This lord said that he was looking for the Flower Fairy, but he didn't see her. Su Tian pointed at a figure in the corner. Over there. The palace lord of the Flower Fairy Palace walked over and helped the Flower Fairy up from the ground. She then slowly said to Su Tian, My lord, this pig head, how could it be the Flower Fairy? That girl wouldn't have run away, right? As long as you give the order, this old woman will immediately find it for you. Su Tian looked at the Flower Fairy's face when he heard the words of the palace lord of the Flower Fairy Palace. The corner of his mouth twitched. If it weren't for the perception of the medicinal pill, he would have thought that this wasn't the Flower Fairy. Then, Su Tian slowly said to the palace lord of the Flower Fairy Palace, There's no need. She is. As for why her face is like this, she was beaten. As he said that, Su Tian slowly left the cabin. Chapter 608, Senior, Can I Invite You to a Place? 1, Zhenvel. CM Divine Realm, 100,000 Mountains. After Xiao Changtian left the boat, he also stayed in an inn in the town. After staying in the inn, the woman in red saw her voice transmission jade pendant light up. After picking up the voice transmission jade pendant, the red-clothed woman also received Su Tian's voice transmission. Young miss, the pavilion master has spoken. This is the time when that young man is at his most lonely and empty. As long as Miss takes the initiative, she will definitely succeed. Upon receiving Su Tian's voice transmission, the red-robed woman felt a wave of nervousness in her heart. Was this moment finally coming? Then, the woman in red slowly replied to Su Tian, Okay, I understand. Tell Grandpa and let him rest assured. After replying, the woman in red slowly walked towards Xiao Changshan's room. Bang! 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 Xiao Changtian was lying on the bed in the room when he heard a sound coming from the door. He walked to the door and opened it. When he saw the woman in red, he said to her, Lady in red, what's the matter? The red-robed woman looked at Xiao Changtian, feeling a little nervous. Senior, can I invite you to a place? Xiao Changtian slowly said to the red-clothed lady, Okay, all right. After all, he had helped her on the flower boat just now. Looking at the other party's appearance, it seemed that there was something that he needed his help with. Hearing Xiao Changshan's agreement, the red-robed woman was delighted. Ness, the first step was a success. As Xiao Changtian followed the woman in red out, they soon arrived in front of a pavilion. Sir, I've always yearned for this place since I was young. This is my first time here. I wonder if we can go in together. The red-dressed woman pointed at the attic in front of her, her face slightly red, and said shyly to Xiao Changtian. Xiao Changtian heard the woman in red's words and looked at the pavilion in front of him. There were 3 big words written on the attic, Yihong Pavilion. Seeing the red-clothed lattice's somewhat bashful appearance, Xiao Changtian also somewhat understood. It seemed like the red-dressed girl was just like the others, curious about the places she had never been to. The girl in red's family must have told her not to go to such a place when she was young. Therefore, he was very curious about this place. He had probably brought him here because he was afraid of encountering some danger. After all, it was not convenient for a girl to come to such a place. With this thought in mind, Xiao Changtian slowly said to the woman in red, "Lady in red, let's go in." Okay. Then, under Xiao Changshan's lead, the lady in red slowly entered the happy red pavilion. As soon as they entered, Xiao Changtian and the red-robed woman saw a scene of flowers, red wine, and green. At this moment, an old oaf walked towards Xiao Changtian and the woman in red. "Dear guests, do you have any girls you like?" Xiao Changtian looked at the old woman in front of him and said slowly, "No need. We're just here to take a look." The red-robed woman looked at the woman beside them and slowly transmitted her voice to her. "Get lost." Sensing the power in the woman's words, the old woman knew that the 2 people in front of her were not people she could offend. He smiled and said to them, "Then I wish the 2 of you a happy stay here." The old woman walked to the side after she finished speaking. Soon, the woman in red and Xiao Changtian arrived at a room above. After entering the room, the woman in red looked at Xiao Changtian shyly. "Lady in red, please sit." At this moment, Xiao Changtian said to the woman in red, "There's actually nothing new about this place. It's better not to come here." The woman in red nodded at Xiao Changtian. Then, the 2 of them sat at the table in silence for a while. The red-robed woman looked at Xiao Changtian beside her. He had already hinted so clearly, but why hadn't Senior taken any action yet? At this moment, the woman in red touched Xiao Changshan's arm. "What's wrong, Miss Red?" Xiao Changtian drank a cup of tea from the teacup on the table and felt the touch on his arm. Xiao Changtian said slowly to the woman in red. The woman in red heard Xiao Changshan's words and was about to say something. Then, she heard a series of sounds coming from outside the room. At this moment, Xiao Changtian also said to her slowly, "Lady in red, I'll go take a look." It was better for him to pay more attention to this place. Seeing Xiao Changtian leave, the lady in red thought of something. He slowly took out a jade bottle from his interspatial ring. Looking at the jade bottle in her hand, the woman in red gritted her teeth. "Red shirt, you can definitely do it." With this thought in mind, the red-robed woman also looked at the teapot on the table. Seeing that Xiao Changtian wasn't paying attention to this place, he was also at the door. He immediately poured some medicinal powder into the teapot. After doing all this, the red-robed woman immediately put the jade bottle back into her ring. He looked at Xiao Changtian with a guilty conscience. At the same time, Xiao Changtian came to the door. He slowly opened the door and saw Leng Mei outside. "Miss Leng." Xiao Changtian was also surprised to see Leng Mei. Why was Miss Leng here? Leng Mei saw Xiao Changtian and smiled at him. "Senior, why are you here? Is it convenient for me to go in?" Hearing Leng Mei's words, Xiao Changtian was also stunned. Then, he said to her, "Come in." Miss Leng was probably curious about this place and came here. After Leng Mei entered the room, she also saw the red-clothed woman inside. After the lady in red left the inn with Xiao Changtian, Leng Mei also noticed it at the first moment. As his competitor, Cold Charm was also very concerned about the red-dressed woman. The red-robed woman was also stunned when she saw Leng Mei, who had suddenly arrived. Then, his expression turned cold as he slowly transmitted his voice to Leng Mei. "What are you doing here? What are you doing here?" When Leng Mei received the red-clothed woman's voice transmission, she did not show any weakness and transmitted her voice. Seeing Leng Mei's smug look, the red-clothed woman was also a little angry. Since it had come to this, the red-clothed woman couldn't say anything. He could only take one step at a time. At this time, Xiao Changtian also came to the woman in red and Leng Mei. He said to them slowly, "Miss Red, since Miss Leng is here, come with us." Letting Leng Mei mingle here alone, Xiao Changtian was also not at ease. Xiao Changtian said to the woman in red. Chapter 609:1 Didn't think the two ladies had this hobbit. 1. Znvel. CM Divine Realm, a small town outside the 100,000 mountains. Xiao Changtian, Leng Mei, and the woman in red were sitting in the room. At this moment, Xiao Changtian also said to the lady in red and Leng Mei, "Ladies, it's late. Why don't we rest?" Xiao Changtian was about to get up and book another room. Seeing that Xiao Changtian was about to leave, the red-robed woman was also anxious. If this senior left, wouldn't his plan fail at the last step? As she thought about this, the red-robed woman spoke to Xiao Changtian. "Senior, please wait a moment." Xiao Changtian stopped for a moment when he heard the woman in red. Then, he turned around and said to the woman in red, "Lady in red, what's the matter?" Looking at Xiao Changshan's face, the red-robed woman was also a little nervous. Then, he picked up the teapot and poured a cup of water. "Senior, have a drink before you leave." Xiao Changtian smiled at the woman in red. When the red-dressed woman saw the smile on her face, she felt nervous. "Senior, could it be that he discovered something?" At this moment, the hand of the woman in red holding the teacup was also trembling. Xiao Changtian slowly walked up to the woman in red. "Miss in red, it's good to drink more water. Let's drink a cup together." "All right." Xiao Changtian was holding a teapot and pouring water. Leng Mei also seized this opportunity and walked over. This red shirt was trying to curry favor with Senior for no reason. She definitely had some plan. He couldn't let the other party get the upper hand. With this thought in mind, Leng Mei took the cup of water that Xiao Changtian handed over and directly let her drink it all. When the red-dressed lady saw Leng Mei's actions, she looked at her with a strange gaze. After Leng Mei drank a cup of water, she did not feel anything wrong. Xiao Changtian saw that the woman in red had not finished her cup. He also slowly said to her, "Miss in red, drink the water. A cup of water before you sleep is good for your body." The woman in red nodded at Xiao Changtian. At this moment, if he did not drink it, wouldn't the thing in the water be discovered? Soon, the woman in red also drank the cup in her hand. Xiao Changtian also drank the cup in his hand after seeing the woman in red drink it. "All right, Miss Red, Miss Leng, you should rest early." Xiao Changtian exchanged a few words with Leng Mei and the others, then slowly walked towards the door. It was already so late. It was not appropriate for him to stay here. If he did not do well, the reputation of this red-dressed girl and Miss Leng would be ruined by him. Soon, Xiao Changtian also left the room where Leng Mei and the woman in red were. He opened a new room and walked into it. He also felt his body heat up. What was going on? Xiao Changtian felt a wave of restlessness in his body. He placed his hand on his forehead and touched it. Could it be that he had been on fire recently? With that thought in mind, Xiao Changtian quickly took out a detoxification pill from his interspatial ring. He had refined it according to the formula given by the system. Hopefully, it would be of some use. Holding the pill in his hand, Xiao Changtian also picked up the water bottle on the table. Xiao Changtian also slowly went to bed to sleep after taking the detoxification pill. On the other side, in the room of Leng Mei and the woman in red. Leng Mei paced back and forth in the room, thinking about the intention of the woman in red just now. At this moment, Leng Mei also felt a burst of heat in her body. He glanced at the red-robed woman who was currently sitting cross-legged on the bed. At this moment, Leng Mei took off her coat. The red-clothed woman suppressed her own heat and spoke slowly in her heart. "Senior, why are you still not here? The medicinal effects of this pill that grandfather gave seem to be a little too strong." At the same time, the red-dressed woman's forehead was covered in sweat. After Leng Mei walked a few rounds in the room, she also felt that something was wrong with her body. Then, he realized something and slowly said to the woman in red, "What did you put in the tea just now?" Upon hearing Leng Mei's voice, the red-clothed woman also realized that her plan had been seen through by Leng Mei. However, the heat in his heart was no better than Leng Mei's. Looking at Leng Mei, he also said slowly to her, "Quickly use your internal energy to suppress the effects of the medicine. Otherwise, no one can save you later." Leng Mei also pointed at the red-clothed woman when she heard her words. Then, a wave of heat surged into his heart. After the heat swallowed her rationality, Leng Mei slowly walked towards the bed where the red-clothed woman was. "What do you want?" The red-clothed lady looked at Leng Mei, who was walking towards her, and shouted at her. At this moment, Leng Mei had already come to the bedside. Looking at the red-clothed woman in front of her, she was about to pounce on her. Whoosh! When the red-clothed woman saw Leng Mei pouncing at her, her figure flashed and she dodged to the other side. This action of the red-dressed woman also broke her original meditation posture. The heat in her body could not be suppressed, and it directly swallowed her rationality. Ah! At this moment, Leng Mei also let out a moan. The woman in red, who had lost her mind, was entangled with Leng Mei at this moment. The two of them slept on the bed together. Not long after, the entire bed started shaking violently. At the same time, a series of sounds came from the door. After no one opened the door, Xiao Changtian slowly pushed it open. "Miss Leng, the red-dressed girl, I was feeling a little uncomfortable just now. I don't know if you can cure me, so I was planning to take the antidote." Xiao Changtian hadn't finished his words when he saw Leng Mei and the red-robed woman struggling on the bed. She quickly turned around and covered her eyes. "Do not look at evil, do not look at evil." After silently reciting it in his heart, Xiao Changtian slowly said to Leng Mei and the rest, "Miss Leng, I didn't see anything just now. I didn't see anything. You guys continue. I'll be leaving first." While speaking, Xiao Changtian also left Leng Mei and the red-clothed woman's room. Originally, he wanted to give her some antidote pills. She didn't expect Miss Leng and the Red Spectre girls to have such a hobby. It seemed that the people in the cultivation world were quite open-minded. He was probably excited to come to this place. With this thought in mind, Xiao Changtian returned to his room. After getting rid of the erotic scene she had just seen, she fell asleep immediately. A night of silence. Chapter 610, Poison into the Water Source. 1. Divine Realm, 100,000 Mountains. The red-robed woman slowly arrived at a room in the inn. She still couldn't accept what had happened yesterday. Why did he and another woman? Due to her vexation, the first thing the red-robed woman did after waking up was to leave the happy red pavilion. At this moment, the woman in red's voice transmission jade pendant also lit up. Looking at the jade pendant on her waist, the red-robed woman also injected a trace of true essence into it. Then, an old voice came from inside. "Hungyi, I heard that you spent last night with that young man at the Happy Red brothel." When the woman in red heard the voice of the Pill's soul sky, she immediately picked up the jade pendant in her hand and said to it, "Grandpa, you're out of seclusion." Last night, on the other side of the jade pendant, Pill's soul heaven heard the woman in red's hesitant expression. There was another burst of laughter. "Hungyi, I know you're shy, so I won't tease you. If you suffer any grievances at his place, you can tell Grandpa. Grandpa will help you teach him a lesson. Also, when are you going to bring him here to see Grandpa? At this time, Pill Soul Heaven also revealed his purpose. When the red-clothed woman heard the words of the Pill Soul Sky, she stammered, Grandpa, I might have messed things up. The woman in red's voice slowly traveled over. On the other side, Pill Soul Sky was clearly stunned for a moment. You messed up? What happened? Tell Grandpa slowly. When the red-robed woman heard Pill Soul Heaven's voice, she continued, I didn't sleep with Sir last night. No? Then who are you sleeping with? At this moment, Pill Soul Sky's voice sounded even more surprised. According to Su Tian's report, the commotion in Red Shirt's room last night was very big. When the red-robed woman heard the Sky of Pill Soul's words, she said to the Sky of Pill Soul in embarrassment, with another woman, after saying that, perhaps because she was shy, the red-dressed woman directly hung up the jade pendant. At the same time, on a quiet mountain peak in Treasure Pill Heaven. Seeing that the jade pendant in his hand had lost its light, Dan Huntian knew that he had lost contact with the woman in red. Whoosh! Dan Huntian slowly crushed the voice transmission jade pendant in his hand into pieces. At this moment, Su Tian, who was standing behind him, also knelt down in front of him when he saw his appearance. Pavilion Master, please calm down. The words of the lady in red had clearly entered Su Tian's ears. Last night, he had also been monitoring the entire room. He did not dare to probe too much. After all, she was his young miss. He did not expect to make such a big mistake. At this moment, Dan Hun Tian also kicked him. Bang! After being kicked by Pill Soul Sky, Su Tian's figure also flew out. Useless trash. Dan Hun Tian looked at Su Tian and said slowly. He originally thought that Xiao Chang Tian and the woman in red had made up. She could bring him to her territory, but she did not expect that the plan she had planned for so long would be ruined. At this moment, Su Tian stood up from the ground without any complaints. He still looked at the Sky of Pill Soul respectfully. Get ready. Follow me to meet that person. At this moment, Pill Soul Heaven was also looking at the direction of the divine world as he slowly said to Su Tian. At the same time, in the inn, Leng Mei was in Leng Xiaoxiao's room. At this moment, there were tears in the corners of her eyes. What happened last night was a huge blow to her. Leng Xiaoxiao didn't know what to say. His own sister was actually with another woman in Yihong brothel. At this moment, Leng Mei also slowly said to Leng Xiaoxiao, Sister, if you want to call me your lord, it's all because of that red specter. I don't think she has any good intentions. Leng Xiaoxiao heard Leng Mei's words and comforted her. At this moment, a series of sounds came from Leng Xiaoxiao's room door. Then, Leng Xiaoxiao slowly opened the door to her room. Leng Xiaoxiao said with a smile. Senior. Xiao Changtian saw Leng Xiaoxiao. He glanced around the room and found Leng Mei hiding behind. He also slowly said to them, Miss Leng, I feel that we have been out for some time. I will return to the island. Leng Xiaoxiao heard Xiao Changshan's words and said slowly, All right, senior. Xiao Changtian heard Leng Mei's words and left slowly. After what happened last night, Miss Leng Mei really needed a good rest. After Xiao Changtian left, Leng Xiaoxiao looked at Leng Mei and sighed. After Xiao Changtian left, Dan Huntian and Su Tian slowly appeared in the town. Arriving at the small town, Pill Soul Heaven was also the first to arrive at the inn. Upon seeing the red-clothed lady, Dan Huntian slowly said to her, Hongyi, grandfather is here. When the red-robed woman saw Dan Huntian also come to his side, she slowly said to him, Grandpa, sob sob sob. He cried in the arms of the Pill Soul Heaven, who patted his back. Grandpa is here. I'll leave the rest to you. You go back first. As he said this, Dan Huntian slowly said to Su Tian behind him, Su Tian, arrange for someone to bring Miss back. Understood. Su Tian responded slowly when he heard Dan Huntian's words. Following that, under Su Tian's lead, the red-clothed woman also slowly headed towards Treasure Pill Sky. After sending off the red-clothed woman, Su Tian slowly walked in from outside. At this moment, Pill Soul Heaven also took out a bottle of pills from his bosom. Su Tian, think of a way to put this in this village. Don't mess it up this time. Yes. Su Tian responded as he took the jade bottle from Dan Huntian. I won't let you down. Hearing Su Tian's words, Dan Huntian waved his hand at him. This was the poison he had refined when he was in seclusion. This poison did not have much effect on mortals, but it was a fatal threat to powerful people. The stronger one was, the greater the damage one would receive after consuming the poison. According to Dan Hun Tian's estimation, if Shao Changtian was a peak immortal emperor, he would probably end up dead. This time, I want to see how you're going to break my trap. The woman in red's trap was broken by Changtian. Dan Hun Tian was not convinced. At this time, Su Tian also poured poison into the town's water source. Chapter 611, There's something wrong with this water. One divine realm, 100,000 mountains. At this moment, on the island of the 100,000 mountains, the great sun immortal was rushing into Shao Changshan's room. Senior, bad news. Hearing the anxious voice of the great sun immortal, Shao Changtian slowly walked out of the room. Looking at the great sun immortal in front of him, he said slowly, Taoist Big Sun, what's wrong? The great sun immortal was a little out of breath at this time. He panted and said to Shao Changtian, Senior, bad news. I wonder what happened in the small town outside the 100,000 mountains. This morning, many townspeople were infected with a strange disease. They all said that they were possessed by the 100,000 mountains. Right now, many townspeople have come to the 100,000 mountains to pray. Shao Changtian heard the words of the great sun immortal and hurriedly walked out. Taoist Big Sun, bring me my first aid kit. The great sun immortal looked at Shao Changtian, who had already run out, and walked into his room. He carried a wooden box out of the room and walked out of the 100,000 mountains. Soon, Taoist Big Sun and Shao Changtian arrived outside the 100,000 mountains. Seeing the townspeople lying on the ground, Shao Changtian quickly walked to one of the townspeople. Immortal Daong, first aid kit. When the great sun immortal heard Shao Changshan's words, he quickly handed the medicine box to Shao Changtian. Shao Changtian immediately took out a silver needle from the box. According to the method given to him by the system, he performed acupuncture on the acupuncture points of the townspeople. Whoosh! 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 As Shao Changshan's hands landed, he saw that the townspeople's expressions had stabilized. There were no signs of them worsening. Senior, it's done. When the great sun immortal saw that the situation of the townspeople had stabilized, he spoke to Shao Changtian slowly. Shao Changtian shook his head when he heard the words of the great sun immortal. No, I just stopped the deterioration of the condition slightly. Then, Shao Changtian seemed to have thought of something and took out a few bottles of medicine from his medical kit. Taoist Big Sun, distribute this to everyone. It can alleviate the illness. Shao Changtian was holding the antidote pill in his hand. The great sun immortal took the antidote pills from Shao Changtian and immediately distributed them to everyone. Shao Changtian looked at the townsfolk in front of him and placed his hand on his wrist. After sensing the situation in his body, he frowned. There didn't seem to be any problems. His vitality didn't drain away. But why did her expression and appearance change so much? Shao Changtian didn't understand. When he checked the townsman's pulse, he found that there was nothing unusual in this townsman's body. In other words, the internal condition of the townsfolk was no different from that of a normal person. However, there were no abnormalities, but these strange symptoms appeared on his face and body. Then, Shao Changtian took out a needle and touched a strange spot on the townsman's face. There didn't seem to be any problems. Xiao Changtian carefully checked the silver needle in his hand and frowned. These abnormalities, at most, made people feel itchy and powerless. There were no life-threatening injuries. Then, Xiao Changtian turned to look at one of the townspeople beside him. She placed her hand on his wrist to feel it. This situation was almost exactly the same as the previous one. At this moment, Xiao Changtian said to the crowd, "Everyone, don't be anxious. The disease is harmless. I'll prescribe a few medicines for everyone to take first." Hearing Xiao Changshan's words, the great Sun Immortal also organized Divine King Red Cloud and the others to come over and help. After a while, Xiao Changtian said to the great Sun Immortal, "Perfected De Yang, follow me to the town to take a look." If he wanted to find a cure, he would have to personally go to the town to investigate. He had just returned from the town, and so many people had been poisoned. Xiao Changtian also smelled something unusual when the townspeople were poisoned. Therefore, he called the great Sun Immortal along. After all, if it was really a man's doing, this person's poison was so powerful. If it was an ordinary person, it would be fine. He could still deal with it by himself. However, if one was talented and was an immortal cultivator, he couldn't handle it, but he felt much more at ease with the great Sun Immortal around. Daoist Deang nodded at him. Then, the two of them slowly ran toward the small town outside the 100,000 mountains. When Xiao Changtian went to the small town, he was in an inn. Dan Huntian slowly sat down on a chair in the room, and Su Tian sat opposite him. "Su Tian, how's the situation?" "Pavilion Master, I have already placed the poison according to your instructions. That person is already on his way to the town." When Su Tian heard Pil Soul Heaven's words, he also responded respectfully to him. Dan Huntian slowly nodded his head when he heard Su Tian's words. "Good job. Continue to monitor him and report to me if anything happens." At this moment, Dan Huntian also waved his hand along with Su Tian. When Su Tian heard Pil Soul Heaven's words, he also immediately walked out. "You're finally here. Don't disappoint me, the game has just begun." Dan Huntian sat on the chair and muttered. At the same time, Xiao Changtian and the great Sun Immortal slowly arrived at the town. Due to the disease, the town had become very deserted. It was not as lively as the previous poetry competition. Xiao Changtian looked at the empty street and said to the great Sun Immortal beside him, "Taoist Big Sun, take me to the water source of the town." When the great Sun Immortal heard Xiao Changshan's words, he nodded at him. Then, he placed his hand on Xiao Changshan's shoulder. With a swoosh, Taoist Big Sun brought Xiao Changtian to a small forest. Xiao Changtian walked forward a few steps and saw a small stream. Then, Xiao Changtian also walked toward the source of the upstream. He dipped his hand into the stream and placed it on his tongue to feel it. There was something wrong with the water. Xiao Changtian looked at the water source in front of him and immediately came to a conclusion. Then, Xiao Changtian took out a water bottle from his interspatial ring. After taking some water from the stream, Xiao Changtian slowly said to the great Sun Immortal, "Taoist Big Sun, let's go back." With a water source, he only needed to study it for a while. There shouldn't be any major problems. When the great Sun Immortal heard Xiao Changshan's words, he also let out a whoosh. He slowly arrived at the inn in the small town. At the same time, Su Tian transmitted his voice to Pil Soul Heaven. "Pavilion Master, that person has already drunk the river water and is now in the inn." Chapter 612, The Poison Pill. I spended several hundred years of cultivation to refine. 1. Divine Realm, 100,000 Mountains. Xiao Changtian was in his room, and in front of him was a kettle that he had taken from the town. Xiao Changtian continued to study the bottle after he brought it back. At this moment, Xiao Changtian looked at the test tube in his hand and cursed. F***ck, which uncultured person did this? This water is really poisonous. At this moment, the water in the test tube had a faint green color. Obviously, it was this thing that destroyed the citizens. At this moment, the immortal De Yang walked in from outside. Senior, the townspeople aren't that worried anymore. After returning, the great Sun Immortal went to appease the townspeople. Seeing the arrival of the great Sun Immortal, Xiao Changtian also said to him, "Great Sun Immortal, you came at the right time. There's something I need to trouble you with. This river water is indeed poisonous. I'm afraid that only you can find the culprit." He had also heard from the cultivators that their holy sense could cover a radius of several 111. He could see every movement of the creatures within a few 100 miles. If he wanted to find out who poisoned him, he still had to rely on the immortal of Great Sunday. When the Great Sun Immortal heard Xiao Changshan's words, he also thought of something. "Senior, why don't we treat the townsfolk first, then we'll go over and wait." Xiao Changshan's eyes lit up when he heard the words of the Great Sun Immortal. "That's right, we can't alert the enemy now." He didn't know what grudge that person had with this town. Logically speaking, this small town should not be remembered by anyone. They had no money or resources. What good would it do to poison this poor countryside? If a madman were to force him into a corner, he would be driven into a corner. What if he had other poisons in his hands? With this thought in mind, Xiao Changtian said to the Great Sun Immortal slowly, "Taoist Big Sun, you're right. Let's start." "Okay." When the Great Sun Immortal heard Xiao Changshan's words, he also responded. After Xiao Changtian studied the poison, he quickly produced the antidote. Therefore, under Xiao Changshan's medicine, most of the townspeople recovered. At the same time, in the inn of the small town, Su Tian rushed in from outside. "Pavilion Master, something has happened." Su Tian entered the room and saw Dan Huntian sitting on the seat. He said slowly to him, "Pavilion Master, that person's methods are really amazing. I found that the poison in the townspeople seemed to have been cured by him. Moreover, he seems to be fine." Hearing Su Tian's words, Dan Huntian's expression changed. Then, he closed his eyes tightly, and the true essence in his body surged as he began to sense. In his spiritual world, his connection with the poison was getting weaker and weaker. Some of the poison that had many connections also dissipated. Looks like this person has some ability. I really underestimated him before. That's right. To be able to cultivate to this level, it wouldn't be right if he didn't have some trump cards. At this moment, Dan Huntian also believed that Xiao Changtian had used some trump card. It made his poison ineffective. Su Tian, who was in the room, saw that Dan Huntian was not furious. He said slowly to him, "Pavilion Master, what should we do next?" When Dan Huntian heard Su Tian's words, he also stood up from his seat. "The woman I asked you to control is still here, right?" Su Tian's hand gestures also changed when he heard Pil Soul Heaven's words. "Pavilion Master, over here." As Su Tian finished speaking, the Flower Fairy's figure slowly appeared in the room of the Pil Soul Sky. When the Pil Soul Heaven saw the Flower Fairy in front of him, a smile appeared on his face. A burst of vital essence surged into his palm, and then a purple pill appeared in his hand. The vital essence in his hand immediately turned into flames, refining the purple pill into threads of vital essence. Then, the Jinqi was slowly injected into the Flower Fairy's body. Cough. 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 After doing all this, Dan Huntian also coughed violently a few times. He opened his palm and saw the blood in it. "Pavilion Master." Seeing Pil Soul Heaven's appearance, Su Tian also planned to go over and help. Before she could walk over, she saw Pil Soul Heaven reaching out to stop her. "Bring this woman to her. I spent hundreds of years of cultivation to condense this poison pill. I'd like to see how he's going to break through this time." Saying so, Dan Huntian also coughed violently a few times. "Pavilion Master. Hurry up and do it. Dan Huntian said to Su Tian. Then, he walked toward the bed and began to stabilize the restlessness in his body. Su Tian glanced at Dan Huntian, who was sleeping on the bed, and also cupped his fist at him. Yes, Pavilion Master. Then, he waved his hand, and with a swoosh, the flower fairy's figure followed him. Soon, Su Tian brought the flower fairy to the outskirts of the 100,000 mountains. Seeing that the townspeople outside the 100,000 mountains had already recovered and left, they also rushed down. Perfected Great Sun, these townspeople have all recovered. Xiao Changtian looked at the townspeople who had recovered and said to the Great Sun Immortal with some satisfaction. Yes, this is all thanks to Senior's miraculous hands. Otherwise, I don't know what to do. When the Great Sun Immortal heard Xiao Changshan's words, he started to flatter him. This is the result of everyone's hard work. Xiao Changtian replied. He stretched his body and planned to walk into the 100,000 mountains. Taoist Big Sun, I'll go back and rest first. After he was done, it was time for him to have a good rest. Taoist Deong nodded at him. At the same time, Su Tian, who was standing outside the 100,000 mountains, saw Xiao Changtian about to enter. The gesture of his right hand immediately changed, and he slowly said to the flower fairy beside him, "Go and find that person." Then, an arrow appeared in Su Tian's hand, and he threw it at Xiao Changtian. Whoosh! The arrow flew in the air and passed by Xiao Changtian. In the end, it stabbed into the stone wall of the 100,000 mountains. Xiao Changtian was also shocked when he felt the arrow that suddenly flew past him. Who is it? Come out. When the Great Sun Immortal saw the arrows on the stone wall, he became vigilant and looked around. Taoist Big Sun, that person should have run away. Xiao Changtian came to the stone wall and looked at the arrow on the stone wall. There was a trace of green liquid attached to the arrow. It was the poison in the townspeople. Chapter 613, So I've been under his concealment, 1, Divine Realm, outside the 100,000 mountains. Xiao Changtian looked at the arrow in his hand and said slowly to the Great Sun Immortal beside him, "It should be the person who poisoned them." Taoist Big Sun, it seems that this person is very arrogant. We should find him as soon as possible. He had thought that since he had just helped the townspeople detoxify the poison, that person would not have acted so quickly. He didn't expect to provoke her so quickly. There was also the Great Sun Immortal. With the Great Sun Immortal's strength, it should not be a problem for him to subdue that person. When the Great Sun Immortal heard Xiao Changshan's words, he nodded. It seemed that that person had also provoked Senior. If Senior attacked, would that person still have a way out? At this moment, the Great Sun Immortal also saw a figure walking towards them. "Senior, look." The Great Sun Immortal pointed at a figure walking towards them and said to Xiao Changtian slowly. Xiao Changtian heard the words of the Great Sun Immortal and also looked at the direction of his finger. This figure seemed familiar. Xiao Changtian was stunned when the figure approached. Flower Fairy. The Flower Fairy walked in front of Xiao Changtian and the Great Sun Immortal, then fell to the ground with a swoosh. Xiao Changtian and the Great Sun Immortal looked at each other. Then, Xiao Changtian saw the Flower Fairy's expression and said to the Great Sun Immortal, "Taoist Big Sun, hurry up and send her inside." The Flower Fairy was obviously poisoned. The Great Sun Immortal brought the Flower Fairy to Xiao Changshan's room. At this moment, Xiao Changtian also brought a bowl of medicine for her. Even though he had some unpleasant experiences with the Flower Fairy before, he was still very happy. However, doctors were benevolent. After all, the Flower Fairy was a patient. As a doctor, he still had to save her. As the Flower Fairy consumed the medicinal soup, her face began to turn rosy. Judging from the Flower Fairy's condition, she should have been poisoned like the townspeople. At the same time, Dan Huntian, who was far away in the small town inn, also sneered. "If you still think that this virus is the most primitive one, then you're too naive. I spent so much effort to refine this pill. Then how can I face everyone in the future? While speaking, Pill Soul Heaven also changed his hand gestures. My poison can mutate. As Dan Hunchin's hand gestures changed, the Great Sun Immortal saw the flower fairy on the bed and said to Xiao Changtian slowly, Senior, this flower doesn't seem normal. Look, her complexion seems to have worsened. Hearing the words of the Great Sun Immortal, Xiao Changtian immediately walked over. He frowned when he saw the flower fairy's expression. Then, he picked up the flower fairy's arm and placed his fingers on her wrist. Sensing the changes in the flower fairy's body, Xiao Changtian said to the Great Sun Immortal slowly, Taoist Big Sun, please brew a medicine according to the prescription on my table. When the Great Sun Immortal heard Xiao Changshan's words, he immediately went to do it. With his immortal cultivator skills, the Great Sun Immortal quickly brought Xiao Changtian a bowl of medicinal soup. Senior, what's with the flower fairy's illness? When he came to Xiao Changshan's side, the Great Sun Immortal asked him slowly. The flower fairy's symptoms were very similar to the other townspeople. However, it had relapsed to this extent. If the other townspeople could do the same, then it would be better for him to let the other townspeople take the medicine as soon as possible. Xiao Changtian also explained to him, the virus in this flower girl's body should have mutated, but it doesn't matter. I'm already prepared. After feeding the flower fairy the medicinal soup that the Great Sun Immortal had brought over, the flower fairy's expression also began to soften. On the other side, Dan Hun Tian was sitting on the bed. He opened his eyes and exclaimed in disbelief. How is that possible? In his perception, his virus was slowly being dispelled. One had to know that even he could not immediately concoct the antidote. Perhaps, in a sense, there was no cure for his virus. As long as the poison continued to change, even if that person found an antidote, it would be impossible for him to kill it. After the poison changed, the original antidote would no longer have any effect. But now, an unbelievable scene was happening in his perception. The virus that he had refined in seclusion was actually beginning to dissipate. Could it be that his previous judgment of him was wrong? That person was a poison master. As the Pill Soul Heaven thought of this, his heart also became a little nervous. Then, Su Tian walked in from outside. Seeing the somewhat uneasy Dan Huntian, he slowly said to him, Pavilion Master, I've already followed your instructions and handed that woman over to him. I believe that we will soon hear the news of the epidemic in the 100,000 mountains. When Dan Hun Tian heard Su Tian's words, he said to him, Su Tian, have you ever seen that person personally take action? Su Tian was also stunned when he heard Dan Hunchin's sudden question. Pavilion Master, as far as I can remember, that person basically didn't make a move. I was too careless, too careless. After getting Su Tian's confirmation, Dan Huntian muttered. It turned out that she had been fooled by his deception all along. That person was able to defeat Sui Xiu Yuan and the others because he didn't do it himself. If it was a strong person by his side, then this person was very likely to be an alchemist like him. In order to confirm his inner thoughts, Dan Huntian slowly said to Su Tian, go to his place now, no matter what method you use. You must find out about his cultivation base. At this point, Dan Huntian slowly walked to Su Tian's side and patted his shoulder. Su Tian, I know this mission is a little difficult for you. However, an army is trained for 1,000 days and used for a moment. If anything happens to you, I will make arrangements for your family. When Su Tian heard Pill Soul Heaven's words, his heart was touched too. Then, he knelt down in front of the Pill Soul Sky. Su Tian's cultivation was given to him by the Pavilion Master. He was working for the Pavilion Master. Su Tian is obliged. Seeing Su Tian kneeling on the ground, Dan Hun Tian nodded in satisfaction. All right, hurry up and do it. Su Tian nodded at him when he heard what Dan Huntian said. Then, his figure flashed and he flew towards the 100,000 mountains. At the same time, in Xiao Changshan's room, the flower fairy on the bed also became more and more ruddy. After a while, the flower fairy slowly opened her tightly shut eyes. Chapter 614, The town is safe and sound thanks to Senior's profound cultivation. 1. Divine Realm, 100,000 Mountains. Xiao Changtian saw that the flower fairy on the bed had woken up and walked to her bedside. Miss Hua, you're awake. This is a decoction. Take it later. Xiao Changtian turned around and walked out. He didn't even know what his relationship with the flower fairy was like now. If he stayed here, he might cause some trouble. The flower fairy looked at Xiao Changtian who was leaving, and her head started to ache. It was as if he had lost an important memory. When Xiao Changtian was helping her to detoxify the poison, he had also removed the purple pill that Su Tian had planted in the flower fairy's body. Seeing the medicinal soup beside her bed, the flower fairy also slowly swallowed it. Bang! Perhaps it was because his body was still relatively weak. The bowl of medicine in the flower fairy's hand fell to the ground and shattered. Hearing the sound of the bowl shattering, Xiao Changtian hurriedly walked in from outside. Looking at the broken pieces on the ground, he heaved a sigh of relief. When the flower fairy saw Xiao Changtian, she said to him slowly, "Senior, I'm sorry." Hearing the flower fairy call him senior again, Xiao Changtian was stunned. Could it be that this flower girl had returned to normal? With this thought in mind, Xiao Changtian slowly said to the flower fairy, "Miss Hua, what did you experience before?" The flower fairy heard Xiao Changshan's words and was about to think of something. However, he realized that his head was aching. Ah! The flower fairy held her head and let out a painful cry. "Miss Hua, what's wrong?" Xiao Changtian saw the flower fairy's painful expression and quickly went over to check. "Senior, I don't seem to remember what happened before." Looking at Xiao Changtian beside her, the flower fairy slowly said to him, "If you can't remember, then don't think about it. You've just recovered, so you should rest more." Xiao Changtian heard the flower fairy's words and understood. Did this flower girl lose her memory? Could it be that he had been poisoned before? Many guesses flashed through Xiao Changshan's mind, but when he saw the flower fairy's weak appearance, he was shocked. He didn't investigate the exact source. It was good that he could recover. As for the root cause, there would be plenty of opportunities to investigate it in the future, right? Xiao Changtian slowly walked out of the room when he saw the flower fairy lying on the bed. He slowly closed the door of the room and saw the immortal De Yang standing behind him. "Senior, someone is looking for you outside." Xiao Changtian heard what the Great Sun Immortal said and said to him, "Is there a new patient?" The Great Sun Immortal shook his head when he heard Xiao Changshan's words. "It doesn't seem like it. I didn't ask him about it, but he said he could only tell me when he saw you." Xiao Changtian was also a little curious after hearing the words of the Grand Sun sect. Who insisted on seeing him? He was alone in the cultivation world and had no relatives. No one should have come to visit him. With this thought in mind, Xiao Changtian said to the Great Sun Immortal slowly, "Where is that person now?" "Senior, he's outside the 100,000 mountains. I asked him to come in, but he didn't." When the Great Sun Immortal heard Xiao Changshan's words, he smiled bitterly. Originally, he thought that Xiao Changtian knew the person. It seemed that Senior didn't know that guy at all. With this thought in mind, the Great Sun Immortal said to Xiao Changtian slowly, "Senior, why don't I chase him away?" Xiao Changtian waved his hand at him. "Taoist Big Sun, let's go out and take a look together." Xiao Changtian also wanted to know who this person was. Soon, Taoist Big Sun and Xiao Changtian arrived outside the 100,000 mountains. At this moment, outside the 100,000 mountains, Su Tian was dressed in black. His headscarf fluttered in the wind. When he saw the immortal De Yang and Xiao Changtian walking out of the 100,000 mountains, he was shocked. He was also nervous. "Senior, this is the person who wants to see you. After bringing Xiao Changtian to the 100,000 mountains, the great sun immortal pointed at Su Tian and said to Xiao Changtian. Xiao Changtian looked at Su Tian, who was standing outside with a puzzled expression. He did not know this person at all. Hello, may I know why you're looking for me? Xiao Changtian came to Su Tian and said slowly. When Su Tian heard Xiao Changtian's voice, beads of sweat began to drip down his forehead. This person must be the one who had repeatedly disrupted the pavilion master's plans. Could it be that he saw through his purpose of coming here and killed him? As he thought about this, Su Tian said to Xiao Changtian, Senior, I came from a small town. He heard that the flower fairy from the small town was here, so he wanted to pay her a visit. At this moment, Su Tian also spoke the words he had prepared beforehand. Hearing Su Tian's words, Xiao Changtian understood. So they were here to look for the flower Jia. I was wondering who would come looking for me. As he thought about this, Xiao Changtian also said to Su Tian slowly, the flower fairy is weak and has just fallen asleep. Is there anything urgent? As Xiao Changshan's voice slowly rang in Su Tian's ears, Su Tian felt a wave of nervousness in his heart. What was that? This person was actually having a friendly conversation with him. Didn't he realize that he was the one who controlled the flower fairy when he said that? In order to confirm his inner thoughts, Su Tian also took out a bottle of pills from his pocket. Senior, I heard that the flower fairy was sick and was quite anxious. This is a pill I found in the town. I hope it can help her. Seeing Xiao Changtian slowly take the pill in his hand, Su Tian was also proud of himself. What he gave him was the purple pill that controlled the flower fairy. If he found out, this person would definitely kill him. Once he made a move, he would also estimate his strength and then pass it on to the pavilion master. If he couldn't see through it, then this person was very likely to be a fox using the tiger's might previously. Xiao Changtian took the pill from Su Tian and frowned after checking it. This seemed to be a type of poison. Why had he never seen it before? Could it be that the person who poisoned them had developed a pill to continue the town? As he thought about this, Xiao Changtian also said to Su Tian slowly, Thank you. You might have saved the life of a townsfolk. Su Tian was stunned when he heard Xiao Changshan's words. This person really couldn't tell. Could it be that this person was really a fox using the tiger's might? Then, Su Tian said to Xiao Changtian, No, the small town is safe and sound because of Senior's profound cultivation. 1. Chapter 6:15, Is he really immortal? 1. Divine Realm, 100,000 Mountains. Xiao Changtian was stunned when he heard Su Tian's words. Then, she smiled at him and said, How am I a cultivator with profound magic power? I'm just a mortal. It seemed that when he saved those townspeople, they all treated him as a cultivator with high cultivation. Although he also wanted it to be true, reality did not allow it. He was still working hard. Su Tian heard Xiao Changshan's words, but he was also somewhat unable to react. Mortals? This person actually said that he was a mortal. Could it be that the pavilion master and he were fighting a mortal? As he thought about this, Su Tian's eyes swept over Xiao Changtian. Because he was afraid of Xiao Changtian, he didn't take a good look at him. After scanning Xiao Changtian, Su Tian was certain that he couldn't sense any aura from him. There were only two possibilities. Either Xiao Changtian was too strong or he was too weak. Judging from the situation just now, this person was really immortal. Xiao Changtian saw Su Tian's shocked expression and continued, This is perfected De Yang. His cultivation is the highest here. Seeing that this young man was quite enthusiastic, Xiao Changtian still introduced the Great Sun Immortal to him. Perhaps the Great Sun Immortal took a fancy to his aptitude and gave him some guidance. When the Great Sun Immortal heard Xiao Changshan's words, he smiled at Su Tian. Senior really went through the tempering of the heart in the mortal world to the end. He was clearly so strong, but he said that he was immortal in front of everyone. When Su Tian heard this, his gaze swept across the Grand Sun Immortal. Although there was some aura on the Great Sun Immortal's body, it was almost negligible. Su Tian felt that he could subdue him with a casual slap. Then, Su Tian smiled at Xiao Changtian and the Great Sun Immortal. Since the Flower Fairy is unwell, it'll come back next time. Su Tian cupped his fists at Xiao Changtian and also planned to leave. Xiao Changtian saw that Su Tian wanted to leave, but he did not wave his hand. Then, he slowly said to the Great Sun Immortal, Taoist Big Sun, let's go back too. I think that the poisoned man is going to make a move soon. Hearing Xiao Changshan's words, the Great Sun Immortal nodded. He looked at Su Tian's back as he left and felt a little strange. But he couldn't tell exactly where it was. Forget it. Since Senior had already let him go, there shouldn't be any problems. After Su Tian left the 100,000 mountains, he saw that Xiao Changtian and the Great Sun Immortal didn't chase after him. He sneered in his heart and became more and more certain of his thoughts. That was also Su Tian's last test. Even Xiao Changtian and Taoist De Yang were pretending. However, he wouldn't be so foolish as to let his enemy escape. Now that they had not caught up, it meant that they really did not know his identity. He had to quickly inform the pavilion master of this news. With that thought in mind, Su Tian turned into a stream of light and flew towards the town. Soon, Su Tian turned into a stream of light and arrived at the small town. After entering the inn, he immediately headed toward the sky of Pill Seoul. Pavilion Master Dan Huntian was cultivating on his bed. He was stunned when he heard Su Tian's voice. This Su Tian actually managed to escape. Then, Dan Huntian slowly said to Su Tian, Su Tian, how is it? Are you alright? Su Tian was no longer as nervous as he was when he faced Xiao Changtian. He calmly clasped his fist at the Pill Seoul sky in front of him. Pavilion Master, this subordinate has already come into close contact with that person. That person is immortal. Then, Su Tian repeated his conversation with Xiao Changtian to the Pill Seoul sky. When the Pill Seoul heaven heard Su Tian's words, he also frowned. That didn't make sense. That guy was actually immortal. Based on his understanding of him, that fellow should have started off at the Immortal Emperor realm. With this thought in mind, Dan Huntian suddenly grabbed Su Tian's arm. His spiritual sense probed into Su Tian's body. Pavilion Master, what is it? What's wrong? Su Tian asked as Dan Huntian grabbed his arm. When the Pill Seoul heaven heard Su Tian's words, he also waved his hand at him at this moment. He had just suspected that Su Tian might have been cast with some kind of spirit technique. However, after scanning his body with his spiritual sense, everything was normal. No, there must be something strange going on. How could that person be immortal? With this thought in mind, Dan Huntian slowly said to Su Tian, let's go. Take me there. Su Tian nodded at him when he heard what Dan Huntian said. Under Su Tian's lead, Dan Huntian quickly arrived at the periphery of the 100,000 mountains. Looking at the mountain peak that was surrounded by dense fog, Pill Seoul Heaven's eyes also flickered. This fog could actually block his detection. Then, the sky of Pill Seoul's hand gestures changed as well. A towering palm print formed in front of him. He swung his palm at the 100,000 mountains. Dan Huntian also shouted, Heaven Extermination Seal. The huge palm print carried a huge aura as it attacked the 100,000 mountains. The Pill Seoul Heaven looked at the 100,000 mountains in front of it and stared at it too. That palm print just now had condensed at least half of his power. As long as that person made a move, it could be said that Su Tian had already. Thinking of this, the true essence in the Pill Seoul Heaven's body also continuously surged. He was ready to kill Su Tian at any time. At the same time, in the 100,000 mountains. Ancestral dragon was playing in the lake. When he saw the palm print outside, he frowned. Where did this thing come from? It actually dares to attack Master's territory. In the back mountain, the white tiger was also staring at the palm print in the air. He licked his feet. You still dare to come when you're so noob. You really don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. At various locations on the island, Black Tortoise, Phoenix, Alpha, and the others were also glaring at the palm print. He looked like he was eager to make a move. At this moment, a voice slowly sounded in their ears. I advise you not to attack. They can't break into this array yet. If you disturb Master, you will be in deep trouble. After the Chaos Ant's voice sounded in the ears of these divine beasts, they also stopped their eager movements. After Xiao Changtian received the pill that Su Tian gave him, he started to study it in his room. If he lost control at this time and disturbed Xiao Changtian, it would not be worth it. At this moment, the palm print slowly landed on the 9 heavens god, sealing array. Whoosh! The palm print hit the 9 heavens god sealing array. Then, the 9 heavens god sealing formation emitted a dazzling light. Chapter 6:16, The Might of the 9 Heavens God Sealing Formation. 1. Divine Realm. 100,000 mountains. Pil Soul Heaven stood in the air and looked down at the 100,000 mountains. Seeing the heaven extermination seal slowly land above the island, Dan Hun Tian said slowly. If you are immortal, then you shall perish. Whoosh! Then, a dazzling white light slowly entered Pil Soul Heaven's eyes. By the time Dan Hun Tian reacted, he saw that the heaven extermination seal had disappeared. How could his palm print be dissolved? Pil Soul Heaven looked down at the 100,000 mountains and suddenly had a bad feeling. His body flashed, wanting to run outside, but he felt a violent energy fluctuation coming from below. Pavilion Master, save me! At this time, a cry for help sounded in the Pil Soul Heaven's ears. Dan Huntian turned around and saw Su Tian's body being pulled away by a force. Whoosh! 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 Then, a burst of rushing wind sound slowly sounded in the ears of Pil Soul Heaven. Pil Soul Sky looked down and saw 9 flags flying toward him. This was a supreme-grade immortal artifact. Pil Soul Heaven's pupils constricted when he saw the 9 flags coming toward him. As for Su Tian, he was surrounded by the 9 flags. Under a wave of strangulation, he did not even have the chance to scream before he was reduced to ashes. At this moment, Dan Hun Tian finally understood why Xiao Changtian was so fearless when dealing with him. It turned out that he had a top-grade immortal artifact as a guarantee. And it was 9. With his current strength, he could barely deal with 1. However, these 9 supreme-grade immortal weapons attacked him at the same time. He had no chance of defeating them at all. With this thought in mind, Pil Soul Heaven also flew out without hesitation. Now, he only hoped that the 9 flags would not chase after him. Whoosh! Before he could fly for a distance, he felt a cold wind blowing past him. Layers of ice began to appear on his left arm. Seeing the change in his arm, Pil Soul Heaven hurriedly mobilized the true essence in his body. They gathered at his left arm in an attempt to break the ice seal. Quick, quick, quick! Dan Huntian muttered. When the ice layer appeared, he felt the true essence on his left arm stop flowing. It was as if the whole thing was not his. As he flew, he finally broke the ice on his left arm. Pil Soul Heaven saw a red flag appear in front of him. Whoosh! The red flag shone brightly, and the sky of Pil Soul's left arm, which had just recovered, felt a burning sensation. Ah! No! When the sky of Pil Soul sensed the abnormality in his left arm, his entire left arm also started to burn. The true essence in his right hand surged and directly swung towards his left arm. Whoosh! Pil Soul Heaven directly cut off his left arm. Whoosh! 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 The sky of Pill's soul panted heavily, his eyes already filled with fear. That flame just now was a little too terrifying. It was definitely even more ridiculous than an immortal flame like the hellfire. If he had not cut it in time, his entire body would have been affected. He was afraid that his body and soul had been destroyed. Looking at the surrounding flags that were still swaying, the sky of Pill's soul did not care about the wound on his left arm. He knelt down in the air and said slowly to the 9 flags, "Seniors, I was wrong. I was really wrong. I apologize for my actions just now. Senior, please forgive me." As soon as he finished speaking, Pill's soul heaven even directly kowtowed a few times. The 9 flags seemed to ignore him. The 9 flags surrounded him in the middle and then began to revolve around him violently. Sensing the violent fluctuations from the 9 flags, Pill's soul heaven was even more frightened. He had been in the human realm upon heavens for so many years. He did not want to die in such a place. "Senior, I was really wrong. Please let me go. I won't dare to do it again." When he said this, some tears flowed down from Pill's soul heaven's old eyes. If he knew that Xiao Changtian had 9 supreme-grade immortal weapons, he would never dare to provoke him. It was already ridiculous enough for an ordinary person to have one, but there were 9 of them. Wouldn't he be invincible? Moreover, there were 9 items that were related to each other. There was simply no way for him to survive. Dan Hunshin's voice echoed in the air. The 9 flags continued to revolve around him. Whoosh! The white flag gave off a burst of light, which acted on Dan Hun Tian's body. Then, he slowly brought him to the island of the 100,000 mountains. After the 9 flags brought Pill's soul sky to the island, they returned to their original positions. "Big shots, we did pretty well, right?" The white flag landed on its spot and said slowly to the ancestral dragon and the others. When the ancestral dragon heard the voice transmission of the white flag, he also glanced at him. Why not kill him? This guy actually dared to attack Master. There's no need to keep him alive. Hey, why are you so hot-tempered? I think little white flag did the right thing. This person has repeatedly gone against Master. Isn't it better to let Master deal with him? At this time, Black Tortoise sitting on the fat Rongrong's body also slowly said to Zhu Long, "You old turtle, you sure have a set of words. I think I'll burn him to death." Phoenix walked out of nowhere. Seeing the scorched left arm of the sky of Pill's soul, it seemed like it wanted to burn the sky of Pill's soul to ashes with endless flames. "Old hen, if you want to fight, you can find me. It's so boring to mess with an old man." At this moment, the divine monkey appeared out of nowhere and looked at Phoenix with a smile. Phoenix flapped her wings after hearing the divine monkey's words. "Damned monkey, if you want to fight, then come. Why should I be afraid of you?" At the same time, Dan Huntian, who had fallen on the island, heard the voice transmission between Zhu Long and the others. His body was already trembling unconsciously. Looking at the divine beasts in front of him, the Pill's soul heaven could not help but slap himself. After confirming that this was not an illusion, Pill's soul heaven could not help but shed tears. F***ck, what kind of person was he going against? There were so many divine beasts. Even if all the people in his entire clan added up, they would not have seen so many. More importantly, these divine beasts seemed to have owners. A person who could tame so many divine beasts was simply a giant, let alone a big shot. At this moment, a voice slowly sounded in Xiao Changshan's room. F***ck. Xiao Changtian was holding a book on the 100 methods of medicine and reading the description. He thought that the system would not give him anything good. He didn't expect that the symptoms of the townspeople this time would be recorded on it. If that was the case, why did he have to study it for so long? This damn system was really... Before Xiao Changtian could finish his words, Immortal De Yang walked in from outside. Chapter 617, So You're Here to Escape. 1. Divine Realm, 100,000 Mountains. The great sun immortal slowly walked in from the outside. When he saw Xiao Changtian in the room, he said to him, Senior, a person suddenly fell from the sky. What do you think we should do? Xiao Changtian was stunned when he heard the words of the great sun immortal. A person fell from the sky. It couldn't be that some immortal cultivator fell from the sky during a battle, right? In that case, he had to protect the island from being affected. With this thought in mind, Xiao Changtian said to the great sun immortal slowly, Taoist big sun, let's go over and take a look. At the same time, on the island, the sky of Pil Sol's back was already drenched in sweat as he looked at God King Red Cloud and the others around him. What kind of people lived on this island? What did Su Tian experience to make him think that the young man was immortal? Look at this iron rake and this brick. These are all top-grade immortal artifacts. As far as he could see, it was no less than a dozen top-grade immortal weapons. With such a foundation, even the entire Beyond Avalon combined might not be able to contend against it. You were the one who attacked the island just now, right? Divine King Red Cloud came to the Pil Sol sky with a 9 heavens rake in his hand and said slowly. Senior, no, I just saw a little bug circling the mountain and wanted to beat him down. I didn't mean to disrespect you at all. At this moment, how could Dan Hun dare to admit that he wanted to attack the island? Wasn't this digging his own grave? Hearing the words of Pil Sol Heaven, Divine King Red Cloud also used the 9 heavens rake to lightly tap the ground. Bang! As soon as the 9 heavens rake touched the ground, it emitted a strong energy fluctuation. Pil Sol Heaven felt the blood in his body churn. Is it like what you said? I remember saying that you wanted to kill Senior. No, Senior, you must have heard wrongly. I really saw a little bug tarnishing your land. It really doesn't have any ill intentions towards you. Dan Hun Tian said slowly to God King Red Cloud and the others. At this time, he could not admit it even if he was beaten to death. Then, the sky of Pil Sol's remaining right arm also took off the interspatial ring. He handed it to God King Red Cloud and the others and said slowly to them, Senior, please accept this item that I brought as tribute. God King Red Cloud looked at the interspatial ring that Pil Sol Sky handed over and glanced at it disdainfully. Trash like you still wants to be used as tribute. Although the quality of the pills that Pil Sol Heaven took out looked good, compared to Xiao Changtian, they were simply trash. When the Pil Sol Heaven heard Divine King Red Cloud's words, its old face also blushed. In so many years, this was the first time he heard someone say that his medicinal pills were trash. In the past, when those people saw him, didn't they all respectfully beg him to refine pills for them? At this moment, Dan Hun Tian's eyes became moist again. This place was simply hell. At this moment, a voice slowly entered his ears. Divine King Red Cloud, what happened here? As the voice rang out, Divine King Red Cloud and the others also saw Xiao Changtian slowly walking towards them. Senior. Divine King Red Cloud greeted Xiao Changtian when he saw him. Then, Xiao Changtian passed through the crowd and arrived in front of the sky of Pil Sol. He looked at the sky of Pil Sol's severed left arm and the red-framed eyes. Xiao Changtian also said to Dan Hun Tian, Old man, are you all right? What are you doing here? Looking at Xiao Changtian standing in front of him, Dan Hun Tian felt an unprecedented pressure. Although he didn't have any aura, he was just like a mortal. However, he already felt that his breathing was not smooth. He was even more terrifying than the others. As expected, the invisible pressure was the most terrifying. At this moment, Dan Hun Tian cursed Su Tian in his heart countless times. This Su Tian died too easily. If he returned alive, he would definitely beat up all 18 generations of his ancestors. What kind of person would nurture such a blind person? He actually said that this person was immortal and that his eyes had been taken away by dogs. Hearing Xiao Changshan's words, Dan Hun Tian said slowly, Senior, I'm fine. I'm just here to give you a gift. At this time, Dan Hun even smiled at Xiao Changtian. This person didn't make a move just now and directly killed him, leaving him alive. It meant that he still had a chance. Xiao Changtian nodded at him. When he arrived earlier, he saw Pil Soul Heaven handing the interspatial ring to Red Cloud Divine King. It seemed like he was here to look for God King Red Cloud. He had thought that he was some immortal cultivator. Judging from his expression and attire, he was not clean at all. He was probably here to escape. With this thought in mind, Xiao Changtian slowly said to the Pil Soul Sky, "Old man, is your left arm still okay?" Hearing Xiao Changshan's words, Dan Hun Tian's heart skipped a beat. He had lost his left arm, and now he was asking himself this question. He must be testing himself. If he answered wrongly, he might die here. After thinking for a while, Dan Huntian said to Xiao Changtian, "Senior, there's nothing wrong. It's all a habit of reaping what you sow." After saying that, Dan Huntian also looked at Xiao Changtian nervously. When he saw that desolate elder frowned, he also planned to kneel down in front of him. At this moment, Xiao Changshan's voice entered his ears. "Divine King Red Cloud, I'll leave the rest to you." When Divine King Red Cloud heard Xiao Changshan's words, he was stunned for a moment. Then, he nodded at Xiao Changtian. At this time, Xiao Changtian also said to the Great Sun Immortal, "Perfected Great Sun, since you're not an immortal cultivator, let us go. We still have to find the person who poisoned us." God King Red Cloud wanted to ask Xiao Changtian how to deal with this. Hearing Xiao Changshan's words, he understood. He walked to the front of the heavenly concealment Pil Soul and said slowly, "You heard what Senior said just now, right? Do you want to do it yourself, or should I?" Hearing Red Cloud Divine King's cold voice, Dan Hun Tian gritted his teeth. Gathering the true essence in his right hand, he struck his chest with a palm. Puff! Dan Hun Tian spat out a mouthful of blood onto the ground. This also indicated that his many years of cultivation had completely dissipated. Pil Soul Heaven looked at Red Cloud and said slowly, "Senior, is this okay?" Pil Soul Heaven, whose cultivation base had dissipated, didn't seem as afraid as before. His tone also changed a little. "What kind of attitude is this?" God King Red Cloud shouted at Pil Soul Sky. Then, with a bang, Dan Huntian fell to the ground. Let's go, let's go." Looking at the half-dead Pil Soul Sky on the ground, Divine King Red Cloud said slowly to everyone. Chapter 618:1 Know this journey might be difficult for us mortals. 1. Divine Realm, 100,000 Mountains. Xiao Changtian was lying on his rocking chair, taking a leisurely afternoon nap. Originally, Xiao Changtian had planned to go with Taoist Big Sun to catch the person who poisoned him. However, after Xiao Changtian cured the townspeople, they were all shocked. Nothing else happened in the town. This also directly cut off the clues. Since that person did not continue to do evil, Xiao Changtian did not continue to investigate. He could only leave it to the Great Sun Immortal to handle. After all, these things were much more convenient for cultivators to do. At this moment, the system's voice slowly sounded in Xiao Changshan's mind. Ding dong. It has been detected that the host has not made any progress in the mission. Reminder to the host. If the host does not take any action today, the mission will be considered a failure. The system's voice slowly sounded in Xiao Changshan's mind. Xiao Changtian also sat up from the rocking chair. What did this stupid system mean? He was even urging him. If he didn't do it today, would it be considered a failure? He was saying that if he did nothing today, his path to invincibility would be closed forever. While he was thinking about this, he also said slowly in his mind, "Is that what you mean, system?" However, Xiao Changshan's question did not have any effect. The system responded to Xiao Changtian with silence. F***ck, this damn system. Xiao Changtian picked up a small stone beside him and threw it forward. After walking back and forth in front of the rocking chair, Xiao Changtian also walked out. He had no choice. Life forced him to do it. If he did not do it, his invincible path would be gone. In order to become invincible, he could only submit to the system's tyranny. Then, Xiao Changtian also came to where the Great Sun Immortal and the others were. Taoist Big Sun and the others saw Xiao Changshan's gloomy expression. She also walked over and slowly said to him, "Senior, did something unhappy happen?" Xiao Changtian heard the words of the Great Sun Immortal and slowly said to him, "Perfected Great Sun, do you know where many spirit skills and cultivation methods are stored? If there was a place that stored so many cultivation techniques and spirit skills, he would sneak in and copy them all with a pen. Putting it in a pavilion, the sutra depository could be completed." When the Great Sun Immortal heard Xiao Changshan's words, he said to him slowly, "These cultivation techniques and spirit skills are mostly the foundation of a sect. There should be a lot of them in the treasure vaults of many sections." Hearing the words of the Great Sun Immortal, Xiao Changtian continued, "Taoist Master Deong, is there any other place that is easy to obtain other than the sect's treasure vault?" When the Great Sun Immortal heard Xiao Changshan's words, he pondered for a moment and then said to him, The other places are all kinds of secret realms and ancient tombs. After some experts died, they would also leave the cultivation techniques they had collected in their lifetime in their own graves. He wanted to leave it for his successor. Xiao Changtian started to calculate in his heart after hearing the words of the Great Sun Immortal. This sect treasury was obviously an important place for cultivators. He was immortal. If he was discovered, he would definitely die. However, those secret realms and ancient tombs sounded even more unreliable. He had personally experienced it the last time. There were so many cultivators fighting for it. If he really participated, he would probably be cannon fodder. At this moment, the Hellfire slowly walked over from the side. "Senior, what are you guys talking about?" Seeing the Hellfire, Xiao Changshan's eyes lit up. He remembered that the Hellfire was a native of this place. Perhaps it could provide him with some help. As he thought about this, Xiao Changtian said to the Hellfire, "Hellfire, do you know where I can get all kinds of cultivation techniques and spirit skills?" When the Hellfire heard Xiao Changshan's words, it pondered for a moment in its mind. Then, he slowly said to Xiao Changtian, "Senior, if we're talking about the types of spirit skills and cultivation methods, Martial Dao Heaven has more of them." Martial Heaven. Xiao Changtian remembered this name in his heart when he heard the Hellfire's words. Then, he said to the Hellfire, "Hellfire, is it easy to obtain cultivation techniques and spirit skills there?" When the Hellfire heard Xiao Changshan's words, he slowly said, "Senior, it should be very easy for you, right?" This senior's strength was definitely the strongest he had ever seen. However, he was definitely not a match for Senior. Senior wanted to see their spirit skills and cultivation methods. Wasn't this giving them face? Hearing the Hellfire's words, Xiao Changtian slowly said to him, "Hellfire, please bring me there." Seeing the Great Sun Immortal beside him, Xiao Changtian said slowly, "Taoist Big Sun, if it's convenient for you, please bring us there." Although the Hellfire was said to be easy to obtain, this cultivation method and spirit skill was after all dealing with immortal cultivators. It was better to be safe, so Xiao Changtian also called the Great Sun Immortal. When the Great Sun Immortal heard Xiao Changshan's words, he nodded at him. Then, Xiao Changtian thought of something and walked to the other side to find Di Wuzheng. Ever since he brought Futian to the Li Fire sect the last time, Di Wuzheng muttered to himself, asking him to bring her up. It just so happened that he was going to look for cultivation methods and spirit skills this time, so he could bring him along. This way, he wouldn't keep thinking about her. Then, Xiao Changtian also brought the old hen and carried the bamboo basket on his back. Everything was ready. He brought the old hen with him so that he could explain himself if he was discovered. He was just a mortal who sold chickens. After all although the animals given by the system were useless, they were very sneaky. Every time she went out, she could accurately find the way home. Soon, Shao Changtian gathered everyone together. Looking at Divine King Red Cloud and Divine King Black Sky, Great Sun Immortal said to Shao Changtian slowly, "Senior, Hong Yun and He Tian also want to help you." Shao Changtian nodded at them after hearing the words of the Great Sun Immortal. Although this old man was useless, he had good intentions. He could not let her down. Then, Shao Changtian slowly said to everyone, "Everyone, we're going to the heaven of martial Tao to find some cultivation techniques and spirit skills. I know that this trip might be a little difficult for us mortals. But everyone must remain calm and keep a low profile, understand?" In the past, when he was doing system missions, he would go alone. Shao Changtian felt that it was necessary to tell them about the dangers of the cultivation world. Chapter 619, Shao Changtian was kidnapped. 1. Divine Realm, 100,000 Mountains. When Taoist Big Sun and the others heard Shao Changshan's words, they looked at each other tacitly. Then, they nodded at Shao Changtian. "Senior, we understand." "Yes." Shao Changtian nodded in satisfaction. Then, he pointed to a carriage that was already prepared and said to Hellfire, "Hellfire, please bring us there." Shao Changtian prepared the carriage because he wanted to bring a few old men with him. If they walked over, wouldn't they suffer? When the Hellfire heard Shao Changshan's words, it nodded at him. Soon, under the lead of the Hellfire, Shao Changtian and the others also slowly walked towards the martial path Heavenly Night. Under the control of the Hellfire, the carriage slowly flew across the various heavenly realms. Soon, they arrived at the Avalon of Martial Arts. Whoosh! 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 Shao Changtian was dozing off in the carriage when he suddenly heard a series of noises coming from outside. You! At the same time, the Hellfire controlled the carriage to stop. "What's wrong?" Shao Changtian opened the curtains of the carriage and said to the Hellfire. Whoosh! Then, a long sword appeared at Shao Changshan's neck. Feeling the sudden danger, Shao Changtian was stunned for a moment and raised his hands. "Beauty, I have no grudge against you, right?" Shao Changtian looked at the beautiful woman in front of him who was holding a long sword. When Shao Changtian was being held hostage by the beauty with her sword, the bodies of the Grand Sun Immortal and the others were also shaken. The true essence in his body involuntarily flowed. Just who was this person? He was so bold to actually dare to point his sword at Senior. At this moment, the longsword beauty said to Shao Changtian, "Cut the crap, bring me in." Shao Changtian nodded at the beauty. Then, the beauty and Shao Changtian entered the carriage. The beauty entered the carriage and glanced at the immortal De Yang and the others. She heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, he met a group of mortals. At this moment, God King Black Heaven, who was sitting in the carriage, also slowly transmitted his voice to the Great Sun Immortal. "Taoist Big Sun, what should we do?" When Great Sun Taoist heard the words of Black Heaven King, he also responded to him. "God King Black Sky, don't act rashly." Senior said to keep a low profile, and this guy doesn't seem to have a high cultivation level. Let's see what instructions Senior has first. At this moment, the beauty also took out the long sword in her hand. Cough! 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 Shao Changtian coughed a few times when the sword left his neck. "One need you to bring me into the city." At this moment, the longsword beauty said to Shao Changtian and the others. After Shao Changtian heard the unquestionable tone of the beauty, he was about to kick her out. Seeing the long sword in the bowtie's hand, he immediately turned to the Great Sun Immortal and said, "Taoist Big Sun, what do you think we should do? Is there a problem with bringing her in?" This beauty didn't need to look to know that she was definitely a cultivator. After all, which mortal would carry a long sword with him for no reason? When the great Sun Immortal heard Xiao Changshan's words, he pondered for a moment. This woman attacked Senior, but Senior didn't blame her. Could it be that Senior has taken a fancy to this woman? With this thought in mind, the great Sun Immortal said to Xiao Changtian slowly, Senior, I don't think there's any problem. Xiao Changtian nodded at her after hearing the words of the great Sun Immortal. Since the great Sun Immortal said that there was no problem, he should be able to restrain her. At the very least, the cultivation of the great Sun Immortal was above hers. As he thought about this, Xiao Changtian slowly said to the Longsword Beauty, All right, then don't do anything rash. The Longsword Beauty glanced at Xiao Changtian when she heard his words. Don't feel wronged. You're considered lucky to have followed me. This city is currently hunting down mortals wantonly. If you enter, you will probably suffer. Xiao Changshan's interest was piqued when he heard the words, wielding the long sword. Was this city hunting down mortals? Miss, can you tell me what happened? You know Dan Hongyi from Treasure Pill Sky. She came to Marshal Dao Sky a while ago to marry a proud son of Marshal Dao Sky. Now, in the Marshal Dao Heaven, those proud sons are trying to get the support of the Treasure Pill Heaven. They all fought for Boda Dan Hongyi. Dan Hongyi said that she has a hobby. She doesn't like to see mortals. So, if you want to enter the city, I advise you to forget about it. Xiao Changtian nodded in agreement. After hearing so much, he finally understood. To put it simply, there was an immortal cultivator in the city who was about to get married. Those cultivators didn't like mortals, so they drove them away. What was wrong with his luck recently? When he went to Treasure Pill Heaven a while ago, he encountered some ancient tomb of immortal cultivators. Now, he was only here to copy spirit techniques and cultivation methods, and he had encountered a cultivator getting married. Xiao Changtian suddenly suspected that the system was picking a time to mess with him. At this moment, Di Wuzheng slowly said to the longsword lady, Then beautiful sister, why did you escape by yourself? Hearing Di Wuzheng's words, the beautiful woman's face turned cold as she stared at Di Wuzheng. Sensing the change in the longsword Bowtie's expression, Xiao Changtian quickly said to her, This disciple is still young and doesn't know any better. Please forgive me if I make you unhappy. Xiao Changtian glared at Di Wuzheng as he spoke. After being stared at by Xiao Chang, Wuzheng also turned his head and ignored the longsword beauty. It seemed that the great Sun Immortal was right. His master might have taken a fancy to this woman. In that case, it would be fine to have a mistress in the future. At this moment, Di Wuzheng suddenly had many strange thoughts. However, the longsword Bowtie's expression softened a little when she saw Xiao Changshan's smile. It's better for you to know less about me. After saying that, the longsword beauty closed her eyes and rested in the carriage. At the same time, Xiao Changtian said to the Hellfire outside, Hellfire, let's not enter the city for now. Let's go to the forest outside the city and rest for the night. Hellfire, who was driving the carriage, nodded at Xiao Changtian. With Senior's strength, no matter what changes happen in the city, it's impossible for him to survive. Seniors should be able to deal with them easily. However, since Xiao Changtian had given the order, the Hellfire still drove the carriage into the forest. At the same time, not long after the carriage left, a few figures appeared in the air. In order to destroy the engagement with me, they had no choice but to silence me. If you don't want to die, then leave quickly. Previously, he had entered Xiao Changshan's carriage to avoid their investigation. Now that she was discovered, she didn't want to implicate Xiao Changtian and the others. Xiao Changtian heard the words of the longsword beauty and looked at the great Sun Immortal beside him. Feeling Xiao Changshan's gaze, the great Sun Immortal said to him slowly, Young lady, don't be too anxious. Well, handle it well. Since Senior had taken a fancy to this girl, he had to cooperate well. Xiao Changtian heaved a sigh of relief when he heard the words of the great Sun Immortal. Fortunately, he had brought the great Sun Immortal here. With the great Sun Immortal around, he naturally did not have to worry too much. Otherwise, even if he ran now, he would not be able to outrun those flying immortal cultivators. After all, how could the speed of running and flying be the same? When Miss Longsword heard the words of the great Sun Immortal, she also said to them anxiously, "The ignorant are truly fearless. Do you know how strong the owner of the Heavenly Sword Villa is? You should have heard of the Pill Soul Heaven of the Treasure Pill Heaven, right? He's an immortal emperor, and the cultivation of the Heavenly Sword Manor Lord is about the same as him. He's also an immortal emperor. Do you know what an immortal emperor is? He's a peak existence among immortal cultivators." Xiao Changtian heard the Longsword Bowtie's words and looked at the great Sun Immortal. When the great Sun Immortal heard the Longsword Bowtie's words, he was also stunned for a moment. "Senior, the ignorant are fearless? If Senior is ignorant, then what are you?" Then, the great Sun Immortal said to the Longsword Beauty again, "Young lady, listen to this old man and rest here peacefully. Nothing will happen." The Longsword Beauty was at a loss for words when she heard the words of the great Sun Immortal. Did this group of people not have any concept of imperial immortals? Don't tell me you don't know about the Pill Soul Heaven. As for the immortal emperor, he's born with all living beings submitting to him. If you are targeted by an immortal emperor, you will all die. Hearing the description of the Longsword Beauty, Xiao Changtian started to yearn for immortal cultivators. What can I do to make a move? All living beings will submit to me. This was how the immortal emperor was. What was the great Sun Jinren, who was even more powerful than the immortal emperor, like? If he really used his full strength, it would probably cause the mountains to collapse and the earth to split. The corners of the great Sun Immortal's mouth twitched when he heard the Longsword Bowtie's words. Didn't he remember that the sky of Pill Soul was crippled by Senior on the island? In order to prevent the Longsword Beauty from making Xiao Changtian unhappy. At this moment, the Immortal of Big Sun also stood up from the ground. He walked to the Longsword Bowtie's side and slowly said to her, "Miss, I think it's still early. Let's go out and find something to prepare for tomorrow." When he spoke, he did not care whether the Longsword Beauty agreed or not. He wanted to pull her out. The great Sun Immortal pulled the Longsword Beauty out of the camp and said to her slowly, "Miss, do you know where there are wild beasts?" The Longsword Beauty glanced at him when she heard the words of the great Sun Immortal. Could it be that this group of mortals did not need to eat food? That's right. After so many years of becoming an immortal, he had already reached the stage of fasting. However, these mortals would die if they did not have anything to eat. Since that was the case, he would help them look for it. With this thought in mind, the Longsword Beauty also said slowly to the great Sun Immortal, "Come with me. Leave quickly after we finish hunting." It was night time now, so those powerful demonic beasts should be resting. As long as they did not provoke those few people, the demon beasts in the forest could still be hunted at will. At the same time, outside the forest, a few groups of people slowly appeared, each of them riding a white colt and wearing armor. According to the news from the Shadow Tower, Li Xiaotao should be here. Chapter 621, Remember, Don't Run Around, 1, B0's Nvel. CM on Martial Arts Day, in the small forest outside the city. Li Xiaotao brought the great Sun Immortal to the forest. After arriving at an empty place, Li Xiaotao said slowly to the great Sun Immortal, "Old man, you wait here first. I'll go and hunt a few demon beasts for you. Remember, don't run around. Otherwise, if you're captured by a demon beast, I won't be responsible." Li Xiaotao slowly reminded the Grand Sun Immortal, and then she was about to walk into the forest. At this moment, Di Wuzheng's figure suddenly appeared beside the Great Sun Immortal. "Alright, Taoist Big Sun, you didn't bring me along to play." When the Great Sun Immortal heard Di Wuzheng's words, he returned a smile. Li Xiaotao frowned when she saw the fifth person. Then, He said slowly to Di Wuzheng, since you're here, then wait here with the old man. Don't be playful. There are many demonic beasts in this mountain forest. When Di Wuzheng heard Li Xiaotao's words, he was also stunned. Many demonic beasts? Then he'll be in luck tonight. He just didn't know how strong he was. When Li Xiaotao saw Daiwa's stunned expression, she also walked to the side. From the looks of it, these two people were temporarily intimidated by him. They might not have eaten the flesh of demon beasts before. Diwu saw Li Xiaotao leave alone. He also said slowly to the great sun immortal beside him, Taoist big sun, I sensed a demon beast nest. How about we go there and do something? When the great sun immortal heard Di Wuzheng's words, he pondered for a moment. Then, he nodded at Di Wuzheng. Originally, Li Xiaotao had taken the initiative to look for the demon beast, so he had planned to wait for her here. After all, if someone was willing to serve him, he didn't have to do anything. Since he was free now, he would follow Di Wuzheng. Seeing that the great sun immortal had agreed, Di Wuzheng also pulled the great sun immortal to the other side. Whoosh! 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 Di Wuzheng and Immortal De Yang shuttled through the forest. Soon, they arrived in front of a small courtyard. Immortal Big Sun and Diwu were squatting in the grass, looking at the courtyard in front of them. He sighed in his heart. This was the first time he had seen a demon beast build a house like a human. At this moment, there were two demon beasts standing guard above the gate of the courtyard. It seemed that the spiritual intelligence of the demon beasts here was very high. Taoist Big Sun, let's go in and take a look. Di Wuzheng's telegnosis ability probed the courtyard and knew that this demon beast tribe was a wolf tribe. At this moment, in the courtyard, those wolves should be having a banquet. After Di Wuzheng finished talking to the great sun immortal, he also walked towards the small courtyard. Stop! Whoosh! Li Xiaotao was stunned when she saw the figure's face. Wasn't this person the young man? Seeing this, Li Xiaotao almost cursed. Those two mortals, didn't he ask them to stand there and wait for him? How did he end up in the Dark Moon monstrous wolf's tribe? It was fine if he walked over, but why did he still use a sword to slash others? Was he really not afraid of death? Quickly take down the sword. At this moment, Li Xiaotao muttered. At the same time, the Dark Moon monstrous wolf that came out of the courtyard also looked at Di Wuzheng. Human, take your sword away. Perhaps we can spare your life. A Dark Moon demonic wolf shouted at Di Wuzheng when it saw its companion kneeling in front of him. When Di Wuzheng heard the Dark Moon demonic wolf's words, he ignored him and said to the great sun immortal, Perfected Daong, with so many wolves, your Nanming Ignis portrait will probably come in handy. Maybe I can make a whole wolf. Upon hearing Di Wuzheng's words, Li Xiaotao and the Dark Moon demonic wolf, who were walking over, were shocked. How dare this person? Let's go. A Dark Moon demonic wolf said slowly, and then it was about to pounce on Di Wuzheng and the others. Chapter 622, This mortal really doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. B0 Nvel. CM on Martial Arts Day, in the small forest outside the city. As soon as one of the Dark Moon demonic wolves finished speaking, all the Dark Moon demonic wolves present attacked Di Wuzheng. At this moment, the great sun immortal, who was standing beside Di Wuzheng, also planned to take out his Nanming Ignis painting. Respected Lord Dark Moon Demon Wolf, wait. At this moment, Li Xiaotao's voice slowly sounded. Seeing Li Xiaotao, the Dark Moon demonic wolf in the lead also stopped in its tracks. Human, what tricks are you playing again? Humiliating our Dark Moon demonic wolf clan, none of you can escape today. Let me tell you, we have eaten at least 80 mortals in the past few days. As he spoke, the Dark Moon monstrous wolf in the lead even bared its fangs. Di Wuzheng and the great sun immortal were also stunned when they saw Li Xiaotao. This Miss Li, how did she find her way here? At this moment, Diwu also slowly said to Li Xiaotao, "Miss Li, you came just in time. Let me tell you, tonight we have a mouth, shut up." Before he could finish his sentence, he heard Li Xiaotao shout angrily at him. Then, Li Xiaotao took out a token from her pocket and said to the Dark Moon Demon Wolf, "Respected Lord Dark Moon Demon Wolf, I'm Li Xiaotao of the Li family. These two are mortals who have just arrived here. They don't know your reputation yet. Please let them off for the sake of the Li family." When the Dark Moon Demonic Wolf saw the token in Li Xiaotao's hand, its eyes flickered. The Li family in the city had a good relationship with their Dark Moon Demonic Wolf clan. Every time they transported things into the city from outside, they had to pass through this forest. Therefore, he had also handed over a lot of offerings to the Dark Moon Demonic Wolf. At this moment, Li Xiaotao looked at the Dark Moon Demonic Wolf nervously. She did not know if the Dark Moon Monstrous Wolf would agree. Really, it was all these two mortals' fault. If it wasn't for the fact that they had helped him before, he would definitely not help them. He would just let them be bitten to death by the demon wolves. He didn't even look at his own strength and still wanted to walk around. After the Dark Moon Demon Wolf weighed the pros and cons in its heart, it slowly said to Li Xiaotao and the others, "Alright, I'll give your Li family face, but you have to ask those two to let go of our brothers immediately. I still have to apologize to them." Li Xiaotao was delighted when she heard the Dark Moon Monstrous Wolf's words. Fortunately, the Dark Moon Demonic Wolf was still understanding. Then, the Great Sun Immortal slowly opened the Nanming Ignis painting in his hand. The Dark Moon Monstrous Wolf pounced towards the position of Diwu Zheng and also saw the Nanming Ignis painting in the hands of the Great Sun Immortal. Whoosh! A scorching flame shot out from the painting. In an instant, all the Dark Moon Demonic Wolves were swept together. What flame is this? The Dark Moon Demonic Wolf felt the flames on its body that could not be extinguished at all, and it felt a wave of fear in its heart. Bang! 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 In a short while, under the burning flames of the Southern Flame diagram, all the Dark Moon Monstrous Wolves on the scene fell to the ground one by one. At this moment, Perfected Great Sun muttered to himself. "I don't know if you've controlled the fire well. Next time, you'll have to ask the Hellfire. I hope it suits Senior's appetite." Li Xiaotao, who was covering her eyes, heard the words of the Great Sun Immortal. He slowly opened his hands. These two people didn't die. Then, Li Xiaotao also saw the Dark Moon Demonic Wolf's corpses on the ground. The bodies of these Dark Moon Monstrous Wolves were charred black. It was obvious that they had been burned alive. These two people did all of this. Li Xiaotao rubbed her eyes again to make sure that she was not seeing things. At this time, a Dark Moon Demon Wolf spat out a ray of light from its mouth. Then, he fell to the ground and died with a bang. Chapter 623, Dark Moon Wolf King, 1, B0 Znvel. CM on Martial Arts Day, in the small forest outside the town. After Li Xiaotao confirmed that the Dark Moon Monstrous Wolf corpses were all over the ground, she was shocked. He also looked at Diwu Zheng and Daoist De Yang in a daze. Were these two still mortals? No, how could there be such a powerful mortal? This was clearly an expert dressed as a mortal. Thinking of what she had said to them before, Li Xiaotao felt a little ashamed for a moment. He was just a puny true immortal, yet he was actually teaching a few immortal kings or even experts with cultivation bases above immortal king. At this moment, Li Xiaotao also thought of the time when she met Xiao Changtian and the others. Xiao Changtian was obviously the leader of this group. The cultivation of the people below was so profound. Li Xiaotao didn't dare to imagine what he would say. He had even held his sword against his neck back then. Fortunately, he did not have any killing intent back then. Otherwise, he would have died by now. At this time, Di Wuzheng also came to Li Xiaotao's side. Miss Li, don't just stand there. Quickly take these corpses away. If we bring it back, maybe master will roast a whole wolf for us. Hearing Di Wuzheng's words, Li Xiaotao slowly nodded at him. It was his first time eating the dark moon monstrous wolf's flesh. Then, as if she had thought of something, Li Xiaotao said slowly to Di Wuzheng, "Senior, that dark moon demon wolf should have sent out a signal of an enemy attack. This is just a branch of the dark moon monstrous wolf. That dark moon wolf king is also an immortal king. After receiving the signal, he should be coming over soon. Senior, we should leave quickly." Although Li Xiaotao's assessment of Di Wuzheng and the others' strength was that of an immortal king, they were still very powerful. However, under the circumstances of being an immortal king, the Dark Moon Wolf King had a unique advantage as a demon beast. Their natural speed and powerful physique were not possessed by humans. When Di Wuzheng heard Li Xiaotao's words, he also said excitedly to her, "There are even stronger demon wolves. Not bad. Miss Li, do you know where it is? Quickly bring us there." When Li Xiaotao heard Di Wuzheng's words, she was also stunned. He thought that Di Wuzheng had not heard what he had just said. "Senior, that Dark Moon Wolf King is an immortal king." Li Xiaotao's expression changed. They looked up into the sky and saw a dark golden light chasing after them. He did not expect the Dark Moon Wolf King to come over so quickly. Bang! The Dark Moon Wolf King's huge body landed in front of Di Wuzheng and the others. After his limbs landed on the ground shook violently. At this moment, the Dark Moon Wolf King saw the corpses of the Dark Moon monstrous wolves all over the ground. His eyes turned scarlet as he stared at Di Wuzheng and the others. Li Xiaotao, who was being stared at by the Dark Moon Wolf King, suddenly felt her breathing become uneven. It was over. He was still a little late. This senior looked like a teenager. At this age, it was already a monster to be able to become an immortal king. In the entire history of Heavens Beyond, there had never been anyone who had reached the immortal emperor stage. At the same time, a few wolf cubs walked out of the small courtyard behind them. As they were not adults yet, they had been hiding in the courtyard to watch. When they saw the Dark Moon Wolf King, they all went over and cried. He told him about how they had seen the great sun immortal slaughter the Dark Moon demonic wolf in the courtyard. The wolf cub cried to the Dark Moon Wolf King, while the wolf cub also cried to Di Wuzheng. "None of you can escape today. Humans, become our food." Hearing the wolf cub's words, Li Xiaotao also felt a little despair. She slowly said to Di Wuzheng beside her, "Senior, what should we do now?" When Di Wuzheng heard Li Xiaotao's words, he also slowly said to her, "Of course I'm going to fight them. Big Wolf, you came at the right time. I like your thighs. Your legs are so thick. It should taste good." Di Wuzheng stared at the Dark Moon Wolf King's thigh and said slowly. When the Dark Moon Wolf King heard Wuzheng's words, its eyes lit up with a red glow. He scratched his back with his claws. A vigorous aura rose from his body. "Human, go down and accompany your descendants." Whoosh! As soon as the Dark Moon Wolf King finished its sentence, it charged at the fifth boss. The wolf cubs behind them looked at Di Wuzheng and Daoist Big Sun and licked their tongues. "Human, we will enjoy your flesh and blood. We will make you feel pain before you die." When Di Wuzheng heard the words of the cubs, he did not pay attention to the Dark Moon Wolf King that was pouncing in the air. Instead, he slowly said to the wolf cubs, "What a coincidence. I have the same idea as you. But I won't let you feel pain." Then, Di Wuzheng slowly said to the Great Sun Immortal, "Perfected Great Sun, don't bum this wolf. Let me do it. I can bring it back to master." Even though he said that, Di Wuzheng's hands were not idle. His hands changed, and then he smiled at the Dark Moon Wolf King. Whoosh! The Dark Moon Wolf King looked at Di Wuzheng in the air. Suddenly, he felt a strange power descend on his body. Bang! The Dark Moon Wolf King's body fell from the sky. Then, he ran to Di Wuzheng and knelt down. A pair of sharp claws grabbed the sword in Daiwa's hand. Bare-handed. At this moment, Di Wu muttered. Human, what kind of evil technique is this? Kneeling in front of Di Wuzheng, the Dark Moon Wolf King was also struggling violently. He shouted at Di Wuzheng. However, the Dark Moon Wolf King realized that no matter how much it struggled, it would not be able to escape. It was as if his body had already left his grasp. He was kneeling in front of Di Wuzheng. Wolf King. At this moment, the few little wolf cubs did not react in time. The Wolf King, who was invincible in their hearts, actually knelt down in front of a human. Not bad. At this moment, Di Wuzheng patted the Dark Moon Wolf King's back and said slowly to him. Compared to those wolves from before, you are still a little stronger. Wolf King, what's going on? Hurry up and eat this human. Wolf King, you kneeling in front of a human is simply a disgrace to our Dark Moon demonic wolf clan. At this moment, the Dark Moon Wolf Cub, who had yet to understand the actual situation, shouted at the Dark Moon Wolf King. On the side, Li Xiaotao looked at Di Wuzheng, who had subdued the Dark Moon Wolf King on the ground. She was also dumbfounded. Chapter 624, Then You're Still Too Naive, 1, B0's Nvel. CM on Martial Dao Day, in a small forest outside the town. Li Xiaotao looked at the Dark Moon Wolf King kneeling in front of Di Wuzheng. His heart was also in turmoil. This demonic beast, especially one that had cultivated to the immortal king realm. They all had their own dignity and pride. Under normal circumstances, it was impossible to kneel before a human. The Dark Moon monstrous wolf was an outstanding figure in the demonic beast world, and it was even more so when facing humans. He did not expect the Dark Moon Wolf King to kneel before a human tonight. At this moment, Li Xiaotao realized that she could not see through Di Wuzheng and the others. From the beginning to the end, he was like a clown. He was showing off his skills in front of a few super experts. At this time, Di Wuzheng said to the wolf cubs, You little wolves, what are you called? All of you, come here. Bare-handed. At this moment, another sword appeared in Di Wu's hand. Following that, the wolf cubs felt their bodies run uncontrollably towards Di Wuzheng. Just like the Dark Moon Wolf King, he knelt in front of Di Wuzheng. He caught Di Wuzheng's sword with both hands. The Dark Moon Wolf King saw that Di Wu was using nutritious moves to deal with its offspring. A pair of scarlet eyes stared at Di Wuzheng. If looks could kill, Di Wuzheng would have died 100 times by now. Sensing the Dark Moon Wolf King's gaze, Di Wuzheng slowly said to him, Big Wolf, don't worry too much. My master has already taught me that we have to protect wild animals. As for these little wolf cubs, I won't do anything to them. Don't worry. At this point, Di Wuzheng patted the Dark Moon Wolf King's forehead. I have to think of a way to pack it up first. At this moment, Di Wu muttered. Daoist Big Sun, do you have any big interspatial rings? When the Great Sun Immortal heard Di Wuzheng's words, he shook his head. With his current strength, he did not have the ability to create a spatial ring that could store living things. When Li Xiaotao heard Di Wuzheng's words, she thought of something. Then, he took off a ring from his finger. Senior, can you take a look at this? When Di Wuzheng saw the ring that Li Xiaotao handed over, he was also delighted. Miss Li, thank you. After saying this to Li Xiaotao, Di Wuzheng also released his control over the Dark Moon Wolf King. Big Wolf, come in obediently. As soon as the Dark Moon Wolf King broke free from Di Wuzheng's restraint, it let out a proud cry. Human, you can't leave. Di Wuzheng received the Dark Moon Wolf King's voice transmission and frowned. If you can get to the sky and those guys there can save you, then you are still too naive. All of you, come over here and catch the white blade with your bare hands. Whoosh! As Di Wuzheng's voice fell, In the air, a winged tiger and a flying crane slowly ran out of the grass. Just like the Dark Moon Wolf King, they came before Di Wuzheng. He knelt down and caught Daiwa's white blade. After realizing that they could not move their bodies, the winged tiger and flying crane said to the Dark Moon Wolf King, "Dark Moon, we've all been killed by you. If you want to die, don't drag us along." Actually, when the Dark Moon Wolf King came, they had already been lurking in the dark. Together with the Dark Moon Wolf King, the three of them were known as the Three Tyrants here. Any team that transported goods from the town had to pay tribute to them as long as they passed through their territory. They had come here because they had received the Dark Moon Wolf King's request for help. He did not expect that he would fall into the same trap as the Dark Moon Wolf King just by coming over to take a look. Di Wuzheng didn't give them the chance to continue their conversation. Looking at the three demonic beasts in front of him, he was excited. Master will definitely praise me, right? With this thought in mind, Di Wuzheng kept the Dark Moon Wolf King and the others into his interspatial ring. Li Xiaotao, who was at the side, saw that Di Wu was easily taking the three strongest demon beasts in the forest. He was so shocked that he didn't know what to say. At this moment, she did not dare to speculate on Di Wuzheng's strength. Whoosh! Just as Li Xiaotao was looking at Di Wuzheng in a daze, a throwing knife suddenly flew past her. "Miss Li, be careful." At this time, the Great Sun Immortal also pulled Li Xiaotao. Otherwise, the flying knife would have pierced through Li Xiaotao's head. Li Xiaotao had escaped death, and her heart was a little panicked. "Shadow Double-Edged Sword, the owner of the Shadow Tower." Li Xiaotao muttered when she saw the flying knife that had just attacked. "Li Xiaotao, I didn't expect you to be here. It's been hard for us brothers to find him." At this moment, a figure covered in black slowly appeared in front of Li Xiaotao and the others. Seeing this figure, Li Xiaotao also said to him, "How can I, Li Xiaotao, be able to make the owner of the Shadow Tower personally chase after me? Based on the price offered by the employer, I am indeed not qualified. However, I didn't come here just for you." As he spoke, the owner of the Shadow Tower pointed at Di Wuzheng, who was fiddling with his interspatial ring. "You killed my disciples, right?" At this moment, the Tower Master of the Shadow Tower slowly said to Di Wuzheng. Di Wuzheng was currently reinforcing the seal on his interspatial ring and had no time to pay attention to him. The interspatial ring that Miss Li gave him was big enough. However, their quality was too inferior to his masteress. Di Wu was feeling that if he didn't add any seals, those three demonic beasts would definitely destroy this interspatial ring later. Seeing that Di Wuzheng had not paid any attention to him, the owner of the Shadow Tower's eyes turned cold. "Forget it. There's no need to talk so much nonsense with the dead." Whoosh! As soon as the master of the Shadow Tower finished speaking, he swung the dual blades in his hands at Di Wuzheng. The two blades waved in the air, and then two rays of light appeared in the air. "Senior, be careful." At this moment, Li Xiaotao also said slowly to Di Wuzheng. Bang! At this moment, a flame also blocked the double blades of the owner of the Shadow Tower. The owner of the Shadow Tower frowned when he saw the sudden flames. "I didn't expect to come here and harvest so much, and there was also a top-grade immortal tool." Seeing the Nanming trigram of fire in the hands of the Great Sun Immortal, the eyes of the Shadow Pavilion that were only exposed to the outside shone with a scorching light. "Taoist Big Sun, it'll have to trouble you first. If this wasn't a person, I think this interspatial ring could still fit." Di Wuzheng said slowly to him when he saw the Great Sun Immortal blocking in front of him. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.